So that's what that feels like, was Izuku's first coherent thought after dying of exhaustion from fighting Muscular. He ended up winning at least, in his mind anyway, with the injuries that Muscular sustained would be safe until help arrived. He knew the risks of pushing himself too hard, and he paid for it. In a last-ditch effort, he managed to call forth over 100% of one for all across his whole body, not just his arms. This gave him more than enough power to overwhelm the villain, but at a cost. The energy expenditure was too much for him. Add that to the full-body injuries he sustained from using one for all at that level, plus the blood loss that he suffered before that, and you only one result. I died, Izuku said aloud, depression hitting him after he realized that all the pain in his body was gone, leaving nothing but phantom pains from earlier. He looked down at his hands, flashing back to what happened. That's correct, Izuku-kun, said a soft, kind voice right in front of him. Izuku was startled out of his flashback, and his head shot up to see who spoke. In front of him was a beautiful woman. No, beautiful was an understatement. She looked almost divine. And considering I'm dead, that might be literal. Izuku thought before composing himself. I have a lot of questions, but one is the most important right now. Did everyone survive the attack? He asked, trying to keep the desperation out of his voice. The woman smiled kindly at him and answered, yes, thanks to your braver sacrifice, everyone managed to live through the event. However, young Kuda was struck with grief over your death. She said, careful not to add the fact that his friend was kidnapped. There was nothing he could do to change that, so it would be best if he was kept in the dark. Everything worked out for the most part, and she didn't want to make him panic. Thank goodness. I'm just happy to know that what I did wasn't for nothing, Izuku said, letting out a sigh of relief. I'm sure you must have many questions, but please allow me to answer a few of them. My name is Eris. I am the goddess of luck and fortune. One of my duties is to watch over the souls of the recently deceased youth. So she was a real goddess. Izuku could definitely buy that, being dead and all. About 3 years ago, I'd been given dominion over your world, specifically over the young souls who died truly heroic deaths after living lives of selflessness and virtue. As a matter of fact, you're the first soul to make it here. Congratulations, Eris said jovially, happy to meet someone like this young hero. Izuku was honestly touched. Of all the people that lived in his world, he was the only one to qualify to come here. It was one hell of a confidence booster, and it brought a few tears to his eyes. Thank you. I don't know if I deserve this. There are plenty of heroes that die every year. What about them? Shouldn't they be here, too? Izuku asked in confusion. They were heroes, yes, at least by your world's definition. They enforced the law and saved lives. However, not many did so for truly selfless reasons. They earned their place in heaven. However, only you have earned the chance that I'll be giving you today. Eris explained, getting Izuku's full attention now. What could a goddess want to offer him? Normally, when a person dies, they have two options. They can go to whichever afterlife they qualify for. In your case, heaven. Or they can return to live another life in the human world without any of their memories. Eris explained. So Kaken's swan dive joke had some merit to it after all. Izuku thought wistfully, remembering the not-so-good times with his friend/bully. Even after everything that happened between them, he would sincerely miss his old friend. You, however, are being given a third option. You see, there exists another world out there, very similar to a magical fantasy world that would appear in a video game from your own world. It is currently being attacked by a demon king. His mighty army has destroyed so much that many of the souls from there have refused to reincarnate, which has caused the population decrease. Eris summed up the situation before telling him what it meant for him. In order to circumvent this, and hopefully eliminate the threat at the same time, the gods have decided to send humans who have died in other worlds to fight off the Demon King's army as heroes. Eris explained the situation. Izuku paid attention as best as he could. So far, this world sounded like it needed help. If this conversation is going where he thought, then he would do so without hesitation. Which is why you are here. We ask of you to help this world in its time of need. Eris went on only to be interrupted. I accept. Izuku yelled suddenly, a strong conviction in his eyes. Eris was shocked silent by the instant answer. She looked at him as if to question his decision, but he continued. If I don't help those in need, then what kind of hero would I be? I may be dead, but my goal hasn't changed. I will be a hero. And if you'll let me, sending me to this new world will allow me to be just that. Izuku said resolutely, no hesitation in his voice. I knew you were heroic. Being sent here was proof. But to hear such conviction in your words, you truly are worthy of receiving 2 gifts, Eris said, looking at Izuku with a newfound respect for his heroic attitude. Gifts, what are you talking about? Eris-sama Izuku asked, not knowing the finer details about reincarnation. Ah, that's my mistake. You see, when a human is reincarnated, they receive a gift from the gods in order to help them fight off the Demon King. You, however, will be given 2 as a reward for living a life worthy of a hero. It can be anything, a powerful item, a boon that surpassed all others, even a fictional power that you've seen before. Eris explained. Izuku grew more and more excited at the prospect after hearing that. That's incredible. Any power at all? Izuku asked while Eris just nodded, smiling at his enthusiasm. Izuku was searching through his brain, trying to think of 2 powers that would be invaluable to him. Before that, though, he needed to confirm a few things. Will I be able to speak the same language as the local people? It would be problematic if he couldn't, especially if there wasn't any context to learn from when he got there. Thankfully, Eris filled him in. Of course, you will receive knowledge on this world's language directly. Along with that, you will receive some starting gear to help you start off your journey. She explained helpfully. Anyway, if it's any help, you can check out the power catalog over there. Even if there isn't anything in there that you like, you might still get some ideas from it. She handed him the book. He thanked her and began looking through it. He noticed a power called alchemy. It gave him a good idea, but he needed to confirm something first. Thank you. I've decided on what I would like to have as my 2 gifts, he said, getting a surprised look from Eris. Most would take a lot longer to decide. For the first, I want to ask if it's possible to ask for a modified version of an existing skill. He said, yes, that's possible. Most just take copies of other powers, but they can modify them to best suit their needs. She confirmed. Okay then, before I explain, I just need to ask one more question. Does the magic of this world still follow the basic laws of physics, even if it's just the energy conservation element? He asked. It was best to know what kind of system he was going to be working with. Yes, for the most part, magic operates on the laws of equivalent exchange. If you were to, say, create an explosion to destroy a large boulder, you would need to expend an equal amount of energy and mana to do so. Eris explained, not knowing where he was going with this. Okay, then the skill I want is the ability to transmute anything that I touch. For example, if I touched a stone, I could turn it into another material, or I could convert all of the matter in that stone into energy with as close to 100% efficiency as possible. He explained. Eris just looked dumbfounded at how simple yet devastating such an ability would be. I should probably warn you, an ability like that will be incredibly difficult to use. The mana cost alone would be massive. She tried to warn him. Most didn't consider that their gifts would also need power to use. I thought as much, which is why I wanted the process to work both ways. For example, I could take any object and then convert it into pure mana, circumventing the need to use my own reserves, or giving me the ability to instantly regenerate any mana that I use. He explained his reasoning, earning him another awestruck look from Eris. This boy just cracked the issue of a mortal's finite mana supply so casually, and this was just his first gift. That's very clever of you, Izuku-kun. You're really smart, you know. Anyway, what about the second gift? Although I think your first is already more than enough. Eris complimented him and asked for his second idea. Thank you for the praise, Eris-sama. It means a lot coming from a goddess. He thanked her while blushing. Anyway, my second request is a bit simpler. I just want to be able to access the internet. From my homeworld, I won't ask for anything unreasonable like being able to talk to people from there, but having an item, preferably an unbreakable/unstealable one that could access all that information would be a great help. He explained, Mostly he just wanted reference material to help with his transmutation skill, but he wouldn't deny that having access to his world's entertainment would be a great help too. And he does it again, another simple item in theory, but completely invaluable to him with his new abilities. Eris thought in admiration. Of course, both gifts are well within our power to grant. I'm sure that you'll be a great hero, Izuku-kun, she said as she prepared the magic circle that would send him away. Not so fast, Eris-chan, came a voice from the void. As suddenly as she was heard, an angelic woman appeared before them. She had short blonde hair and green eyes, but her most striking feature were the angel wings on her back. Ah, Tenshi-chan, how may I help you? I was in the middle of sending Izuku-kun here to his new life. Eris asked in confusion. It was rare for an angel to visit a goddess, especially if they were in the middle of work. Sorry to say this, but the elder gods caught wind of your little trips to the human world, she said, getting Eris to pale considerably. As punishment, they decided that you would be sent to the human world and that you will not be allowed back until the Demon King was taken care of. Sorry about this. I'm just following orders, the angel said apologetically. Wait, so as a punishment for going to the human world, I'm being sent to the human world for as long as I want, Eris asked herself in confusion. Deciding to stay quiet, she just frowned and nodded, hoping to make it look like she thought of it as a punishment. Sometimes I question the intelligence of my fellow gods, Eris thought sadly, thinking about a certain senpai she knew. Izuku was too stunned to respond in time. He and Eris were lifted into the air and sent to their next destination. He swore to himself to apologize to Eris for not defending her, and to help her return to her home as quickly as possible. And with his new gifts, even if he couldn't cut it, he would give it one hell of a try. Open field just outside of Axel. Izuku woke up with a start. He started looking around and accessing his surroundings. The first thing he saw was a walled-off city a few kilometers away. He realized where he was and remembered what happened. He also noticed that he had a bag with him, the bag that he usually used for his classes at Udade. Speaking of which, he was in his Udade uniform rather than the destroyed, casual clothes that he wore when he fought Muscular. The gods must have given me these as part of my starting gear. Wait, gods, Uri-sama. Panicking, he tried searching for Eris, only to realize that she was lying right next to him, still asleep. Hey, Uri-sama, wake up, please wake up, he called out, trying to shake her awake. After a few seconds, she opened her eyes and knew what had happened. I'm so sorry. I should have defended you back there. I'm not sure how that would have changed things, but I feel ashamed for just letting someone as nice as you be punished without even a complaint. He apologized immediately. Eris just smiled at him as she got to her feet. His selflessness was endearing, but he was way too hard on himself. It's okay, Izuku-kun. In all honesty, this is hardly a punishment. I tend to come down here for fun on occasion, and this just gives me an excuse to do it. Permanently, she said, trying to get him to calm down. Okay, but still, I'm ashamed for not stepping in. It's the principle of the matter. You helped me so much, and I did nothing to repay you. If you really want to stay in this world, then let me help you while you're here. It would be the least I could do, he said with determination. Eris just giggled at him. It should be me who's helping you, my little hero. But if that's how you feel, then let's be partners instead. I might want to stay here, but I still have work to do in Purgatory, and I'm sure you still want to stop the Demon King. So our goals align. I'll be in your care, she said, giving him her signature wink. Izuku was blushing by the end of that. He just nodded, agreeing with what she said. So, I guess we should head out. You said this place was like a fantasy world, so I assume there is an adventurer's guild or something, right? He asked, getting a nod of confirmation from the goddess. Right on the first try. Normally, I would go there in my human form. Sadly, I was brought here looking like I usually do, and I can't turn back, so I doubt anyone will recognize me. Luckily, I have a friend that might be able to help us, so we should go see her before we do anything else. She told him the plan. Sure, you know this place better than me, so lead the way, Eris-sama. Okay, but please don't call me by that name. I'm a goddess, remember. If people figured out who I was, it could end up bad. Oh, and before we go, I should warn you that my friend is a little eccentric, she said before walking off. leaving behind a confused Izuku who tried to keep up. Hope you all enjoyed this first chapter. Expect another one in a day or two. Here are the links to my inspiration. Author, Magnus9284. Story, www.fanfiction.s/1312870/1/blessed with a hero's heart. Stats, masochists and toads. Oh my. Wow. I know you're a goddess and everything, but I didn't expect your friend to be a rich noble or something. Izuku exclaimed as the duo made their way to a massive mansion that stood in the center of a huge plot of land in the northeast section of the city. When I came to this world before, I lived as an adventurer. One of my closest friends was a noble woman who decided to become an adventurer as well. Her name is Dustiness Ford Lalatina, but she prefers to be called Darkness. She also happens to be one of my loyal followers, so it would be for the best if she was made aware of our situation. Eris explained her relation to the rich girl. That makes sense. A great person like you would spend their free time helping others as an adventurer. The more I heard from her, the more convinced I was that she was a goddess worth following, or, as she said, a partner worth working with. Well, aren't you a flatterer anyway? The body that I use to adventure isn't too different from my current form, so she should be able to recognize me. After that, we'll need to speak to her in private. Chances are that my status as Chris the Thief has been revoked, so I'll have to start over from square one as an adventurer with you. It was a setback, but not that bad of one. Her mortal body wasn't that high level anyway. By the by, you should call me Chris while in public. Using my real name could cause some problems. She explained the plan as we approached the mansion. She knocked on the door, and we waited for a few seconds before it opened. Ah, Chris-san, you look so different. It has been a while since you visited, and I see you brought another of your companions. My lady is currently in the courtyard. I'm sure she would love to see you, the refined voice of a butler said as he opened the door fully to let us in. Izuku bowed to him as they walked past, earning the green hero a respectful nod in return. As we walked towards the courtyard, Izuku caught a glimpse of a woman who was slightly taller than himself. She was blonde and wore a set of medium armor that covered her limbs, chest, and sides. She was also practicing her swordsmanship and failing miserably. She tried to hit a log right in front of her with vertical swings, but kept missing. Not able to stand it much longer, Izuku decided to step in and give some advice. He understood just how frustrating it could be to try so many times only to fail. Excuse me, but you should try a horizontal swing. Your arms keep shaking as the blade goes down, which ruins your aim. But if you hit it from the sides, you should be able to land it, he said in a calm voice, grabbing her attention. She blushed at how someone saw her miss so horribly, but did as the stranger asked. To her surprise, she actually managed to hit the target this time, if only barely since her hands jumped up at the last second. Only the top piece of the wood was chipped, but if her face was anything to go by, it was a victory that she never thought she would get. Thank you, mister. I actually hit it. Oh, Christian, I didn't recognize you at first. What happened? You look so different like that. She thanked Izuku before switching her attention to Eris, who looked a bit sheepish. It's a long story, Darkness-chan, one that I would like to tell you in private. But before that, allow me to introduce my new adventuring partner. His name is Midoriya Izuku. She replied, motioning to the green hero who bowed slightly to her and introduced himself. As she said, my name is Izuku. It's a pleasure to meet you, Darkness-sama. He said politely, wanted to make a good impression on the noble lady. Oh, there's no need to bow like that. I'm an adventurer too, just like you. I would rather not be treated differently just because of my status. Plus, you helped me hit the target. I couldn't have you lower yourself after doing so much. She replied, as if helping her hit a stationary target was some kind of miracle. Izuku just agreed and tried not to push the issue. She reminded him of Yaoyorozu in a way, tall, rich, beautiful, but also modest about her status. Well, now that you're both introduced to each other, we should get down to business. Darkness-chan, would it be okay to use your room for this? We need a private space to talk. Eris asked, hoping for a yes. Her room isn't that a little too soon? We just met after all, and it would be a big invasion of privacy, Izuku thought. Sure, they needed privacy, but it was still a bit much. Calm down, Deku. Now isn't the time to relapse. Of course, I would be happy to help. Darkness agreed instantly with a blush on her face. I guess she's also the selfless type who would help others in need, even if it was embarrassing. I'm so lucky to meet so many great people so soon. Izuku thought to himself, unaware of how wrong he really was. It's a lot more plain than what I expected. She really is modest about her wealth. Izuku thought as I looked over her room. It had a yellow and white color palette, along with a few splashes of pink here and there. It had a large bed, a few desks, and a closet to the far side. It was a large room, but not obscenely so. So what was it that you needed to tell me, Christian? It must be pretty important if you wanted so much privacy. She asked before looking at me. She started to stutter and blush madly. Wait, is this your way of telling me that you and Izuku-san are dating? It would. Explain why you introduced him to me all of a sudden, and why he's privy to what you want to say. But why would you tell me? She muttered out, stuttering the whole time, and blushing with steam practically flowing out of her ears. And no, you got it all wrong. We're not going out or anything. And not that I wouldn't want to Arisama is really beautiful after it. Izuku started panicking before he froze, realizing his mistake. Smooth Izuku-kun, real smooth, Eris said, shaking her head in amusement. Meanwhile, Darkness was taking what he said the wrong way. Why did Izuku-san just call you Arisama? Is this some kind of master/slave play? She questioned furiously. I didn't think you had it in you, Christian. Wait, what? I thought she was an innocent rich girl. How did she know what S&M was? More importantly, how am I supposed to respond to that? Izuku panicked further, internally this time. Eris was just pinching the bridge of her nose, expecting but still annoyed with her friend's antics. Darkness-chan, just calm down, please. The truth is that she began while pulling out a necklace from her clothes. It was the symbol of her religion, except it was modified and blessed by her directly. Any true follower would be able to recognize it almost instantly. I really am Eris. I'm sorry for keeping this from you for so long, but I couldn't tell you about it until recently. You see, she went on to explain the situation to Darkness, including how they both ended up in this world, although Izuku wished she didn't go into so much detail about how he died. It was a bit embarrassing to be held in such high regard by a goddess. That's quite a tale. I doubt that you would come up with something so elaborate just to trick me. But why are you telling me this? Couldn't you just go back to being Christian without any problems? Darkness asked, not familiar with the rules behind everything. I may be the same person, but my body has been changed. My adventure card was connected to Chris. If I try to use the same one now, it wouldn't work, so I have to restart from level 1. The reason I came to ask for your help is that I need an alibi to give to the people to explain how similar I look to Chris and to explain why Izuku-kun is here all of a sudden. She explained Darkness' role in all of this. Oh, I get it now. Darkness-san would add credibility to our claims since she knew Chris very well. As for our cover story, it would be easy to claim that you are Chris' sister from how similar you both look, while I could just be an old friend that you discovered and decided to help. The idea was simple enough and would get us a decent reputation with the other citizens from familiarity. Exactly. Anyway, we should head towards the Adventurers Guild. ASAP. The faster we get there, the faster we can get you set up. Eris complimented and suggested. Oh, and as for my name, please call me Erisviel. It will be easy to remember and won't attract as much attention as Eris. She added. The trio went on towards the Adventurers Guild. On the way there, Izuku checked out the bag that he arrived in this world with, wanting to know what he had to work with. Inside, there were his regular school supplies. Well, regular for a nerd like Izuku anyway. He had 3 pencils, a set of 3 red, black, and blue pens, a set of high-quality scissors, several empty notebooks, his hero notebooks, a compass, a box of markers, and finally a high-grade clay eraser. Oh, and an All Might action figure because this is Deku we're talking about, so of course, he'd have one. He would have had much more, but this was just what he brought with him during summer camp. In the immortal words of King Explosion Murder, Deku, you fucking nerd. Along with his basic supplies, there was something in the laptop pocket that he never got to use before. It was a fairly large tablet with the U logo on it, though now it was super lightweight, almost weightless. This must be the gift that I asked for at the end. I should test it out later, but for now, I need to focus on what I have. Izuku thought to himself as he continued to take inventory. He looked at the side pockets next, hearing a clinking noise and noticing that 5 coins were in the bag. They had a carving of Eris winking, along with the number 1000 etched into them. Starting currency neat. With that done, he focused on the road again and noticed a large building ahead of them. That must be it, he thought as darkness opened the door. He wasn't fully prepared for what was inside. It looked like an old-timey bar with waitresses walking around the place. There were dozens of what he could only assume to be adventurers drinking, brawling, and overall having a good time. It was all a bit much for him. He was never really good in social environments like this. The others didn't even hesitate and walked up to the counter where a buxom blonde woman was waiting. The woman, Luna, asked if she could help them, and Darkness replied, "We're here to get these 2 registered with the guild. My friend here is named Arisviel. She is a sister to Christian and would like to register. The young gentleman here is named Izuku. He is a friend to the 2 sisters and an acquaintance of mine. He would also like to register." She explained with the grace of a noble. Luna smiled widely and welcomed us to the guild. Of course, we're always happy to have new members join our cause. Do you have the money for the registration fee? It will be 1000 Eris, 500 for each of you. Izuku nodded and handed her one of the coins in my bag. Thanks for covering the cost, Izuku-kun. Normally I would do it, but I left all my money on my other body. Irisviel whispered to him apologetically, earning a chuckle from the others from how ridiculous it sounded. It's no problem at all. I owe you so much already, it's the least I could do. I reassure her as Luna came back and lead us to the crystal that was supposed to show us our stats and register us into the guild. After she explained the basics of being an adventurer, she asked us to hold our hands over the crystal. Ladies first, Irisviel-san, Izuku said, smiling at her. It's nice to see that chivalry isn't quite dead yet. Luna said, noticing what he did. The green hero blushed a little at that and said that it was just common courtesy. As Irisviel placed her hand on the crystal, a flash of light came out and a freshly minted adventurer's card was produced. Luna went to grab it and gasped in shock at the results. Incredible. Every stat is exceptionally high, and luck is maxed out. This is the highest stat total I've ever seen in a beginner. Luna exclaimed in excitement. The guild stopped at that moment and looked over in our direction. With stats like these, you can choose any class you like, including the advanced classes. She continued, getting the other occupants excited at this. I took a look at it myself and saw that there were 6 stats in total. All in all, the card read: Strength, 65. Vitality, 50. Intelligence, 40. Wisdom, 30. Dexterity, 50. Luck, 999. I would like to choose the Thief class. It may not be an advanced class, but suits my style quite nicely. Irisviel responded, getting back her original class. Just like your sister then. Very well. Now Izuku-san, please step up and do the same. Luna said, gesturing towards a crystal. Izuku went to do so until he heard something from behind. Don't get upstaged by your lady friend now. Followed by some chuckling. I guess the stats of a goddess will be a tough act to follow. I wonder. Before he touched the orb, he activated full cowling at 5%, thinking that it might transfer to his stats. The light show his body. Produce got him a lot of attention. There were several audible gasps from the crowd that quickly formed as the card was generated. Luna, surprised by what the young man did, hesitantly picked up his card and looked at it. I am possible, she called out in complete shock and awe at what she saw, dropping the card in a daze. Izuku went to catch it before it could fall to the floor, taking a look for himself as he caught it, several people looking over his shoulders as he did so. The card read: Strength, 205. Vitality, 200. Intelligence, 250. Wisdom, 20. Dexterity, 300. Luck, 800. No fucking way. His stats are almost all in the triple digits. What kind of monster is he? These and other similar responses came from everyone who saw Izuku's stat card. I guess it did work after all, but why's my intelligence so high? I guess my wisdom stat has suffered from all the reckless stuff I did in the past. My luck is about right. I've been ridiculously lucky ever since meeting All Might. I might just be legitimately blessed by the goddess of fortune herself. Izuku thought before looking at Arisviel, and Darkness, the latter of which was wide-eyed and slack-jawed. For some reason, she was also blushing and had stars in her eyes. It made him nervous. Luna seemed to have recovered from her stunned state and addressed the powerful young man. Like before, Izuku-sama, you're qualified for most of the classes available. However, cleric classes like Archpriest require a higher wisdom score. Your stats surpass what I've seen from even level 40-plus adventurers. You are even stronger than Kyoya-sama, she stated, still in a bit of shock. Izuku blanched a bit at the sama honorific, though. Please, there's no need to call me Izuku-sama. San is more than enough. And just Izuku works too. He tried to calm her down, which only made her more excited for some reason. So modest. Maybe you'll be the on-cough. Now, Izuku-kun, have you decided what class you would like to be? She asked while blushing for some reason. What was it she was about to say before coughing? Izuku shrugged and decided to just go with it. He went into deep thought and weighed his options. Fighter classes are out. I prefer fighting with my fists rather than a weapon, and One for All already augments my physical prowess well beyond what is normal. The rogue classes just are my style. I was never one for subtlety, much less with a mentor like All Might. Cleric classes are also out. My wisdom is too low. Too bad. I wouldn't have minded becoming a priest of Eris. That leaves me with the magic classes. They would be beyond useful for my gifts. And of them, Archwizard seems to be the most powerful, so I'll go with that. His decision made Izuku looked up with conviction in his eyes and said, I choose the Archwizard class. How only to notice that? Everyone was staring at me weirdly. Arisviel was making a blabbing motion with her hand to try to tell him that he's been muttering the whole time. Sorry about that. I tend to mutter a lot when I'm in deep thought. Izuku apologized with a sheepish look. He needed to get over that habit one of these days. That's okay, Izuku-kun. Let me just make everything official, and then you three can get to questing. Be right back, she said and ran off to finish what they could only assume was paperwork for the guild. Izuku-san, what was that? How are you so strong? And most importantly, can we spar later? Darkness came up and asked the young hero in quick succession before shyly asking if we could spar. That's right, this world doesn't have quirks. Izuku remembered what Arisviel explained to him on our way to Darkness Mansion. That was my quirk. In my world, over 80% of the population has some type of unique power that they can use. My quirk, One for All, lets me augment my physical characteristics. He explained, getting a nod of understanding from her. And yes, we can spar later. I don't mind, but I should probably complete some quests first. Right now, I only have 4,000 Eris left, and I doubt that's enough to afford food and a place to sleep tonight. He explained, getting another, more excited nod. We got the go-ahead a few minutes later and took our first quest. We chose to take the Giant Toad Elimination Quest. We had to kill 5 giant toads for a reward of 100,000 Eris plus 5,000 extra for each toad killed. When we got to the field where they roamed, Izuku took his first look at a real fantasy beast that wouldn't be possible in his world, at least without a quirk being involved. So these are the giant toads. You guys said it was resistant to blunt force, so I guess the best way to go about this is to use a blade, or magic, Izuku said. Sadly, he had no magic at the moment, with the starting budget of skill point being a measly 5. With each of the worthwhile magic skills costing at least 8 points each, he wasn't able to get any of them, and was unwilling to spend points on the weaker spells. That didn't mean he couldn't fight, of course. Izuku touched the ground and used his transmute ability to make himself a simple steel spear. It was basic in every way, a tool meant for the task at hand, although to a blacksmith it would look like a very high-quality piece with how pure the steel was. "Is this another quirk, Izuku-kun, or is it magic?" Darkness asked. She was also taking off her armor for some reason. "Did the frogs have some kind of anti-armor ability?" "It's one of the gifts given to me by Irisfield-chan. It allows me to change any object into anything else that I want so long as I'm in contact, and I know how the materials work to a moderate degree." Izuku explained his power, getting a tentative nod of understanding from the resident crusader. Truthfully, that took a lot out of me. The feeling of mana leaving my body to fuel the transmutation felt so surreal, like I was getting my blood drained or something. I should test my mana recovery skill after this, he thought before deciding on a plan of action. "I'll handle all of them directly. Irisfield-chan, please help by sneaking up on them and prepare to take the kill once they get weak enough and you have a safe opening." "Darkness-san, I don't really know what you should do. If you want, you could do the same as Irisfield-chan and take a few kills. I want to keep the EXP distribution between us fair after all." Izuku explained his plan to the group. Looking back, Darkness just looked at him with a little disappointment while Irisfield palmed her face while smiling. "Selfless as ever, Izuku-kun. I appreciate it, but you don't have to take on all of them yourself. Even if we don't get the kill on each one, we still get a sizable EXP reward from just providing support and defending you. Plus, Darkness-chan would get bored if she just stuck back and stole kills all the time," she said, which explained why Darkness looked so disappointed. Izuku accepted in the end, and the group got down to business. Activating full cowling, Izuku rushed towards one of the toads and pushed his spear forward. To his surprise, it went right through with almost no resistance. It was like a hot knife through butter. "I might need to lower my power a bit or I'll overextend again." He lowered his percentage even further and jumped back to his original position. This all took him about 5 seconds to do. "Izuku-kun, that was amazing. You were so fast, and you were able to take down that toad in a single hit," Darkness exclaimed, in awe of my display of power. Her face was completely flushed, and she was breathing heavily for some reason. "I didn't think I was that impressive," Izuku thought as he saw Irisfield sneak up on another toad, stealthily throwing a knife that he had made for her at it and nailing it right in the skull. It fell almost instantly without even giving off a death rattle. "Good job, Irisfield-chan. That was an impressive display of stealth, and good accuracy too," Izuku complimented her. Darkness was getting into it too and charged at another toad, sword raised high. Sadly, this time the toad was fast enough to grab her mid-charge and swallow up her upper body. The field was completely silent as the toad lifted up its head and tried to swallow. "I've seen enough," Izuku said and threw his spear at the frog's center, killing it instantly. The spear went right through the heart and slammed on the other side with enough force to create a small crater. Darkness started to crawl out of its mouth, covered in slime, panting and blushing furiously. "Are you okay, Darkness-san?" Izuku asked in concern, getting a thumbs up and an enthusiastic never better. In response, "I think I know what Irisfield meant by eccentric now. She's a total masochist," he thought, blushing furiously. If you say so, Darkness-san. Would you like to stop for now and maybe take a shower, to get the slime off?" he suggested, but she shakes her head. "No, I'm perfectly fine, although I don't think I can grip my sword anymore." "It matters not. I'll gladly be the meat shield if it means helping you, Izuku-kun," she said far too happily. "Don't kink shame Deku. She's still a good person at heart. This is just a minor quirk," he thought to himself, remembering some of his more eccentric classmates. None of them were masochists, but some did skirt the line between sane and not so sane. So he wouldn't judge. "Okay then, we should hurry and kill 2 more to finish up then. I'll try to make it quick." Izuku walked up to the spear and noticed that it broke at the tip. Instead of fixing it, he came up with an idea. He turned the spear into a circular steel ball, then replaced the interior of the sphere with a mixture of 75% potassium nitrate, 15% charcoal, and 10% sulfur, most commonly known as black powder. He then added a wick and sealed the sphere up. Taking a few rocks from the ground, he made some flint and lit the wick before launching it at a pair of toads about 30 meters away with a quirk-powered throw. The explosive burst to life, sending shrapnel across the field. Both of the toads were shredded by the supersonic projectiles and died in seconds. Hopefully they won't complain if they find a bit of metal in those toads while they search the bodies. Izuku thought, immediately realizing how annoying they were going to be to cook later. Whoops. Making mixtures is even more exhausting. It feels like I just used full cowling for 5 minutes straight. Thankfully my mana supply seems to be pretty high, but any more combat after this would be bad. He thought while grabbing a notebook. Note to self, test mana transference ASAP. Meanwhile, Darkness and Arisfiel were staring at the surprising young hero with smiles on their faces. A perverted one and a proud one respectively. This marked the success of their first quest as a newly formed party. Toad Kill Quest. Success. Eris X1 25000. Well, there goes Chapter 2. Izuku sure made a huge splash with his little stunt at the Adventurers Guild. If you were wondering where I got those numbers, I took the adventurer cards that were shown in the anime/manga and translated the writing into English using an online cheat sheet. Then I just multiplied the numbers that Kazuma got by how strong Izuku is in comparison to an average human while using 5% full cowling. He is about 20 times stronger and 100 times faster than an average human. Here's my reasoning. Normal human lifting strength is about 80 kilograms. In his fight with Todoroki, he sent him flying back several meters with a single punch in under a second. Doing the math, which I'm going to skip because it would take way too long to write, that leaves Izuku's lifting strength somewhere in the ballpark of 1 metric ton. Keep in mind he did this with a broken hand, so we can safely assume that it's even higher than that. Now, for his speed, a normal human can run at about 5 to 7 meters per second. To round things out, we'll use 5. Izuku clocked in at just under 500 meters per second during the Two Heroes movie when he dodged a bullet fired from what looked like an M16 assault rifle from a distance of a little over a meter away. Now if you divide 1.3 meters, which is roughly how far away he was by the speed of a bullet leaving an M16, then you get a number close to 500 meters per second. For his intelligence, I just gave him a little over what of Megumin's score was, since I think we can all agree that Izuku is smarter than her in more ways than one. Izuku is still an idiot in his own way, though. His heroics and selfless attitude nearly got him killed several times, so I gave him a low wisdom stat. His luck is self-explanatory. The dude is the MC of a shonen anime. That's about as lucky as you could get, plus he has Eris at his back. Hope that explains my reasoning. For Eris, I just took Aqua's card and gave her slightly lower physical stats, about 5 times what Kazuma had for intelligence, and maxed out luck for obvious reasons. Another arrogant blonde man. Fun fact, 150,000 Eris is equal to about $1,400, so even the most basic of quests give out some pretty decent rewards. So what I'm trying to say here is that Aqua is truly the goddess of death. After the makeshift party's battle with the giant toads, they decided to visit the local bathhouse to freshen up before searching for an inn to rent for a few days. Eventually, Izuku and Eris found an inn that was willing to give them a room with 2 beds for 50,000 Eris a week. They paid up front for a 2-week stay, leaving Izuku and Eris with 25,000 Eris each to their names. Food money would be tight, but they could make do. Darkness had insisted that if they wanted to, they could stay with her for a few days until they had better financial security, but Izuku denied it. You've already helped us more than enough. I couldn't ask for any more. In fact, I swear to you that I'll pay you back for everything tenfold. He promised a bit too loudly. Unfortunately, he made his declaration in the middle of a crowded street, which got the poor hero in training more attention than he could handle at once. Without thinking, he headed to the guild by himself to escape ever-increasing eyes on him. Oh crap, I left them behind. Izuku realized too late. He was already halfway to the guild with full cowling turned on. Oh well, I'm sure they'll be fine. Maybe I could do a solo quest to earn a bit more money and get us a safety net just in case. He muttered to himself as he approached the guild building, slowing down a bit and landing just outside of the main entrance in a crouch. Sadly, with the speed that he was going at, it created a loud boom from behind him. Oh, well, that's a thing. I knew I was fast, but not that fast. While Izuku was coming to grips with the fact that he just broke the sound barrier, other adventurers and civilians near him just looked confused and a bit in shock at how the green rookie appeared out of nowhere with a loud explosion coming right after. Noticing this, Izuku rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. Sorry about that. I moved faster than I thought. He apologized, getting still confused nods. Izuku should have guessed the average person wouldn't know what a sonic boom was in this world. Suddenly, one of the doors to the guild building opened and a tall, blond man about the same size as Darkness walked out. He had a great sword at his hip, which had a golden handle and an axe-like guard. The blade itself looks like someone took two swords and forged them together with a long cutout at the bottom center of the blade. What was that noise? Was there an attack? He asked with a concerned voice before noticing me. And who are you? He pointed at Izuku. A bit rude, this one. Still, being the shy but polite person that he was, Izuku introduced himself. My name is Izuku Midoriya, and yeah, I caused a loud noise. Sorry about that. I was moving too fast and caused a sonic boom on. Accident, he tried to explain. Also, it's common courtesy to give your own name before asking for someone else's. He points out, hoping to confirm a suspicion of his. This guy looks way too high level to still be in the starting city. And that weapon of his is radiating strong magic. Is he also a reincarnate? Izuku thought. Luckily, the Archmage class gave him a passive ability to detect magic when it's nearby. It's not very precise, but with the level of power coming off that blade, it was hard to miss. My name Kyuya Mitsurugi. From your name, I can assume that you've also been reincarnated into this world. The idiot said out loud. What is he thinking? Wasn't that supposed to be his secret? Luckily, nobody else heard it. They were still a bit stunned seeing the two strongest adventurers in town having a stare down. Izuku, panicking slightly, ran up to him and whispered, Don't say it so loud. Weren't you told that we had to keep that secret? He looked surprised at this and shook his head. No, I wasn't told that. Aqua-sama just gave me the basic gist of the situation and my gift, the cursed swordgram. Then I was sent me here. I don't believe that she would forget something so important. He responded. I just stared confused before asking. Who's Aqua? Izuku asked. Was it another goddess? The blonde swordsman looked confused at our young hero's question until he sensed a familiar energy. Izuku had a hand placed on his shoulder, which made him jump before looking back. Irisviel was standing behind him, slightly panting. Aqua is my senpai *Huff. She's the second *Huff goddess that is meant to send people to this *Huff world. She explained, still out of breath. Please don't run like that again, Izuku-kun. I know that it was a little embarrassing, but that reaction was a bit much. And who is this? Mitsurugi asked. Her aura reminds me a little of Aqua-sama's. She looks tired, and she said you ran away from her. Why would you leave her behind? He asked, misinterpreting the situation. Wait, it's not what it sounds like. I just dash. Izuku tried to explain, but was interrupted by another yell. Itsuko-kun, how could you leave us to the crowd like that? They pounced on us the moment you left, but they just kept asking us questions instead. More interesting things. This wasn't the kind of meat shield I was talking about. Came the voice of the resident masochist who just made the situation worse. That's it. I've heard enough. Clearly, you have no idea how to take care of a party correctly. You abandoned these beautiful ladies to a crowd of people and ran to save your own skin. Unforgivable. He ranted before turning to the two ladies that were staring at him, unimpressed. You two, why not leave this coward and join my party? I'll make sure to help you with any needs you might have with a crusader and a thief along with my own Swordmaster class. We could be the strongest team in the city. He gave his pitch only to get two deadpan stares from the ladies. You're making an awful lot of assumptions, you know. And who do you think you are? Taking the situation and bending it into your favor. I refuse. Irisviel stated, not at all pleased by the way this upstart insulted her favorite mortal. I like more aggressive men in general, but something about this guy makes me want to punch him instead. Darkness said quietly, also declining. Why not? Is it because this guy is blackmailing you or something? That has to be it. Nobody would team up with a coward unless they were being forced to. He incorrectly rationalized getting looks of anger, disgust, and pity from the trio. Izuku was pity. Geez, this guy is narcissistic. He reminds me of a more eloquent, but more egoistic Kaken. He thought as Mitsurugi calmed down slightly. That's it. I challenge you to a duel. Mitsurugi declares, making the crowd that has formed shift outward into a circular arena of sorts. Great, now the people are invested in it too. I won't be able to talk myself out of this. Izuku thought bitterly. He was more than familiar with this kind of herd mentality from his middle school days. Sigh. And what would the victor receive, then? I don't like to fight for no reason, but you've insulted me. Usually I could let that slide. But you also insulted my party members, and I won't stand for that. So name your conditions. The blonde smirked and went on. If you win, I'll give you anything that is within my power to grant without question. However, or if I win, you must let those two leave your party and join my own. He said smugly. I refuse. Izuku denied flat out, getting several gasps in response. What you requested isn't mine to give. It's their choice whether they want to join you or not. To say otherwise would be to treat them as objects and not people. Frankel, why I'm disgusted that you would even suggest that. He says matter-of-factly, earning smiles from the girls and the respect of the crowd. Mitsurugi was just enraged even further. You really are a coward, hiding behind honeyed words to get out of fighting me. Fine, if I win, I'll take whatever gift you were given before arriving here. Is that better? He renegotiated. Izuku just nodded in acceptance. He could agree to that. Irisfield-chan, please start the countdown. I'll try to make this quick. Izuku says as he prepared one for all, this will be a good time to test out an idea that he had while fighting the giant toads. Hopefully it works. Of course. The fight will start in 3, 2, 1. Begin. Eris called out. Izuku rushed his opponent at full speed the moment she did. Mitsurugi managed to follow Izuku's movements and prepare to slash at him with Graham, but before he could even lift it, Izuku smirked and pointed his open palm towards the unprepared blonde. One thing was different, however. Izuku had used his transmutation skill and took a page out of Kaken's book, creating a small spark using one for all's electricity and ignited his new nitroglycerin sweat. The results were something to see. The explosion traveled quickly, hitting Mitsurugi in the chest and blinding him momentarily. It didn't do much damage, but it gave Izuku enough time to get behind him and deliver a powerful punch to the back of his head, knocking him over like a bag of potatoes. Just as I thought, he relied far too much on that sword, so he failed to train up his durability. Anyone faster than him, or that could surprise him in a fight, would win every time. Izuku thought in pity as he stared at the downed swordsman. Whoa, the new guy just beat the town ace in one hit. It was 2 hits actually, and he did it to protect the chastity of his 2 female party members. That part was true, but the way he phrased it. He can even cast detonation magic already. Just how strong is this? Guy, that was false, but I can't exactly explain how I could do that. As the people kept hyping Izuku up, the story just kept getting more ridiculous and distorted. Something tells me this isn't going to end well. I should grab Irisfield-chan and Darkness San and run for it. Izuku thought before grabbing them by the arm and doing just that. He didn't want to stick around to find out how this ended. Izuku-kun, this is too soon. I didn't know you could be so forceful. In that battle, Darkness said while we were in midair, blushing and stuttering the whole way. Sorry about grabbing you too so suddenly without saying anything. I just didn't want to leave you all behind again. We should head back to the inn for now until this all blows over. I don't think the crowd will leave us alone if we go back. Izuku explained, getting 2 nods. Oh my, Izuku-kun is even more forward than I expected, taking me to his home on the first day. You just keep surprising me, Darkness said while rubbing her face. This just kept getting weirder, so the green hero picked up the pace, careful not to break the sound barrier again. They eventually made it without any issues, and he set the 2 girls down. Sorry about bringing you along, Darkness-san. If you'd like, I could accompany you to your mansion before coming back here. It's the least I can do. Izuku offered, but she declined, saying that it was fine and that if she got attacked by a crowd, she would prefer to go down alone anyway. Darkness left after saying that with a distorted grin on her face. Asterisk, sigh, I know she's a good person at heart, but that personality of hers is hard to keep up with. He muttered to himself. Yeah, don't worry about it. You'll get used to it eventually. Anyway, we should get to bed. It's getting late, and we should be up early tomorrow to get in on the best quests. Irisfiel said, getting no arguments from her green companion. Today was pretty tiring, and he would like to just leave it behind him for now. And thus ended his first day in this new world. Hopefully, the next few to come won't be too hectic. Oh, you poor green cinnamon roll, if only you knew. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the chapter. As for the little explosive power that Deku showcased today, it's just one of the many examples of just how versatile a power like transmutation can be. Think alchemy from Full Metal Alchemist, but quicker and with a scientifically literate person behind the wheel. The next chapter will include everybody's favorite Crimson Loli, so stay tuned. Meeting two fellow outcasts. Izuku woke up with an aching back. Going from modern beds to a hard, thin bed in a medieval inn was an experience to say the least. As he opened his eyes, he remembered exactly where he was and how he got there, just in time to see Eris changing into her outfit. Asterisk bonk ow. A small whine left Izuku's lips from hitting his head on the back of the bed. Irisfiel took this as her cue to quickly finish getting dressed. Why, you didn't see anything right? She asked shyly, a blush on her face. No, of course not. I would never. Not that you aren't beautiful, you are. It's just that how Kapenfergathivriente Samerum. Izuku muttered out at turbo speed until he heard Irisfiel giggling. Don't worry, Izuku-kun, it's fine. I figured that this could happen, so don't worry. I trust you. She reassured the young hero, a smirk on her face. My goddess is such a tease. I should hurry up and find us a permanent home, or I might not survive for much longer. Izuku concluded after getting his blush under control. Not that he didn't enjoy the view. After that whole situation, Eris had the decency to leave the room to let Izuku get dressed, which he did quickly, along with starting his daily rituals to the best of his abilities, using his transmute skill and the magic of the internet to make himself some makeshift hygiene products. Afterward, he checked his adventurer's card to see if anything had changed. Nice, I'm level 3, I guess those toads give out good EXP with that. He walked out and joined Eris. We should head out to the guild hall. I'm sure Darkness-chan is already there waiting for us, she said, and Izuku agreed. They started heading in that direction before Izuku got himself an idea. Should we walk, or would you prefer the expressway? He asked, which got him a smirk from Eris. With full cowling, they managed to reach the guild hall in only a few minutes. This time Izuku kept his speed down to about car speed so that Eris didn't get too uncomfortable. Though by her own insistence, he got a few flips in here and there, much to the goddess' cheerful screams. On our way there, Izuku kept hearing people call him the mighty green hero for some reason. He didn't mind it or anything. Being called a hero was pretty flattering, actually. At least it would be if it stopped there, but the women around town were also giving him weird looks ever since he beat that Mitsurugi guy. It was freaking him out. Whatever. I'm sure this will all blow over eventually, Izuku thought as the duo entered the guild building and headed towards the quest board. Darkness was already there waiting for them, blushing and panting at certain extremely dangerous quests. Good morning. How was your night? She asked as we approached, her composure slowly coming back. It was great, I slept just fine. Izuku half lied, not wanting to worry her. Although the morning was a bit rough for me. He chuckled nervously. Oh, come on, Izuku-kun, it wasn't that bad unless you think I'm ugly, Eris said teasingly. Oh, of course not. I would never think that you're very beautiful, Izuku said quickly, and to his embarrassment loudly, earning him some roaring laughter from the other adventurers in the guild. You're so easy to tease, Izuku-kun, never change. Anyway, we should get started looking for quests. The best ones always get taken first, so let's go, Eris suggested, The trio then went on to look for a suitable quest and decided to go with a simple kobold extermination quest. Apparently, the little dragonoids were robbing and killing passing humans who came too close, and they needed to be taken care of. The reward mentioned 300,000 Eris, along with an extra 10,000 per kobold killed. This one should do fine. It pays really well, and it looks like we could help a lot of people by getting rid of these monsters, Izuku said, grabbing the quest sheet. They were ready to talk to Luna to make it official, but were stopped by the voice of a young woman. Wait, came the voice of a dark-haired, red-eyed girl. She wore a generic big wizard hat, a black cloak, and a red dress with gold trim. She also had an eye patch and mismatched legwear. One had black leggings, and the other had bandages wrapped around it. My name is Megumin, the legendary arch-wizard of the Crimson Demon Clan, master of explosion magic. I have heard about your legendary exploits and have decided to join you. Now tell me, do you wish to utilize my forbidden dark powers? She introduced herself in a way that would make even the biggest chunny heroes blush in embarrassment. And that name, I wonder if it's just another worldly thing, Izuku thought. Well, he doesn't want to be rude, so he should at least give her a chance. I wouldn't mind if you joined our party, Megumin-san, but it's not just my decision, he said while giving his companions a look. They just shrugged and left it to the young hero. If you would like to join the party, then come with us on our quest so that we can see what you can do. If that's okay with you, Izuku offered politely. Trial by combat would probably be the best way to test her claims anyway. Of course, I'll prove myself to you. Our enemies will be blown away with the power of my explosion magic. Well, she has enthusiasm, that's for sure. While she preached about the wonders of explosion magic, Izuku noticed a very similar-looking girl hiding behind the quest board. She looked nervous and to the point of tears while staring at Megumin. Feeling bad for what must have been a fellow introvert, Izuku motioned over for her to join them. She looked surprised, but ended up approaching the group. You look a lot like Megumin-san, and you were looking at us. Do you two know each other? Izuku asked. Megumin was torn out of her speech and noticed the other girl. Yin, what are you doing here? She asked while pointing an accusatory finger towards her. I guess they didn't know each other, I thought, as Yin began to answer. I came here after finally mastering high-tier magic. Now that I want to join a party and finally challenge you to a duel for the title of the best Crimson Mage. She answered the question with a good deal of enthusiasm, although she looked a bit embarrassed at the end. I guess she's more self-aware about her Chuyuni tendencies. The two mostly normal members of the party thought. But I see now that you've already offered to join these people. I'll just go then. I'm sure you would only want one archmage, she said sadly and started to walk away. Actually, I don't mind if both of you join. In fact, we still haven't decided if Megumin would join in the first place. We planned on heading off to finish a quest as a trial by fire, so to say. You can join us if you want. Depending on how well you do, we'll decide whether you guys can join or not, Izuku told her, making her stop. She turned back with the brightest smile that they'd ever seen and glowing ruby eyes. Honestly, it looked adorable. Really? Thank you. Thank you. I promise I won't disappoint you, she said while bowing to them. She then turned to Megumin and gave her own pose. Megumin, I challenge you to a duel. Whoever takes down the most enemies wins, she called out, getting Megumin to smirk. I accept. My explosion magic can't lose in a battle of sheer firepower, she claimed before collapsing on the floor, or she almost did anyway before Izuku caught her, concern clear on his face. Are you okay? What happened? He asked, worried for the young girl. Sorry, it's just that I haven't eaten in over 2 days, she said sadly. This wouldn't do. We might have been low on funds right now, but one meal was well within our range. Plus, we needed to eat breakfast anyway. Don't worry then. You and Yin-san can join us for breakfast. I'll pay, I insist, Izuku said, getting a thankful look from her and a smile from the others. He noticed a waitress walking around and motioned her to come over. Excuse me, can you please prepare some food for us? Anything filling will do. Just don't go over 25,000 Eris, please, Izuku asked while motioning to the 4 girls behind him. Of course, sir. I'll come back as quickly as possible, she said politely and bowed before leaving. After a hearty meal and a grateful thanks from the two Crimson Lolies, we went out to hunt for our prey as Eris informed our two new recruits on what the quest was. On our way, Izuku asked them where they were from and why they wanted to join the party. We're both from the Crimson Demon Village, known far and wide for its high-level mages. We came to join your party for the same reason, I think. Megumin started with Yun agreeing with her so far. You appeared out of nowhere with extremely high stats and another powerful companion at your side. I guess that would be a little suspicious. You then beat the giant toad quest in record time. There's a record for that. And that very same day, you defeated this town's strongest adventurer in under a minute. Strongest adventurer, that blonde guy really. With a reputation like that, who wouldn't want to join you? She finally finished hyping Izuku up, much to his relief. Yeah, I guess you're right. I just never thought that what I did was very impressive. He replied humbly. And you're really humble, Yun added. Please stop. To tell you the truth, neither Megumin or I have been treated very warmly by the local adventurers. We haven't been treated with hostility or anything, but you're the first person to help us and even buy us a meal. So please accept our thanks, Yun said with a bow. Honestly, Izuku was stunned. So these two have been ignored and cast out by others. I made the right choice by helping them. Hopefully, they will make a good enough impression so that the others will let them join. He thought with a sad smile as they kept walking towards their destination. The group finally reached their destination and made camp right outside the range of the kobolds. They were having a strategy meeting when Izuku finally popped the question. Excuse me, but can I see your adventure cards? It would be helpful if I knew what both of you could do. He asked, getting a quick nod from Yun and a more nervous one from Megumin. She's nervous? I wonder why she's been pretty confident since we met her. He thought while skimming through their cards. Yun level, 7. Class, Archmage Strength, 18. Vitality, 20. Intelligence, 200. Wisdom, 30. Dexterity, 20. Luck, 10. Not bad. Your intelligence is really high, and your wisdom is also pretty good. You're also level 7. Why is that? Izuku asked her. Wasn't she a new adventurer with no party? Did she do solo quests before meeting them? I usually go around and help new adventurers that bite off more than they can chew, although I'm sure they didn't need me in the first place. I just keep doing excessive things, sorry, she said, blushing in embarrassment. We need to work on her confidence. But she helped out so many people that her level just passively increased to 7. Even if she has her flaws, that pretty much guarantees my vote for her to join. Izuku thought as he looked over the known spells section. Spells. Intermediate magic. Fireball, Blade of Wind, Lightning, Paralyze, and Sleep. Advanced magic. Inferno, Light of Saber, Bottomless Swamp, and Teleport. You also have a nice selection of battle and utility spells. These would be very useful in almost any scenario. Impressive. She blushes at my praise and practically glows with how happy she was. Now for Megumin. He looked over her card and immediately saw something wrong. Megumin. Level 6. Strength 17. Vitality 26. Intelligence, 231. Wisdom, 32. Dexterity, 21. Luck, 16. Your stats are very similar to Yun-san's, if a little higher, but Izuku said before hesitating as he read her known spell list. Spells, Advanced, Explosion. She only knew one spell. Upon voicing this, Megumin nodded furiously. Yes. Explosion magic is the only type of magic that I will ever use. I love explosion magic and absolutely refuse to use any other spell, she said passionately, causing the others to sweat drop, except for Yun, who was already used to it. Oh, okay. Well, with these spells, I would like for Yun-san to go first. Please demonstrate any and all spells that you think would do well against these kobolds, and when you reach about half mana, just fall back and let Megumin have her turn. If there are any kobolds left after that, we will take care of them. Does everyone agree with this? Izuku asked, getting no complaints. Well, Darkness did mutter something about not being used as a shield, but they decided to ignore that for their own mental health. As we approached their territory, Eris noticed several small shadows moving to their right using her detect skill. Yin-Yin-san, get ready. They're coming from our right. We'll leave them to you, so just tell us if it becomes too much, okay? She said as Yin-Yin prepared her first spell. Fireball. She cast, sending it towards their general direction. The spell hit 2 kobolds directly, while the dry grass under them helped spread the flame quickly. 2 more caught on fire and ran off into the distance, too stupid to roll on the ground. The last 2 tried to attack the other party members, but Yin-Yin intercepted them with another spell. Blade of Wind. She chanted as a wide, invisible wind blade bisected the 2 kobolds. Good job, Yin-Yin-san. That was an excellent work you just did. And your casting speed was also rather good. Irisviel congratulated her on a job well done. Keep that up, and you'll become a party member in no time. Yin-Yin blushed at the praise. Let's keep moving. If there are this many kobolds out so far, then that means they probably have a gathering spot near here. With any luck, we can find it and end their reign of terror today. Izuku said, getting nods of agreement from Darkness and Irisviel, while our 2 new companions looked at him with a mix of awe and excitement. I wonder what got those 2 so excited. Oh well, as long as they're having fun, I guess. Izuku thought as the group moved towards the direction where the burning kobolds ran towards. They eventually found the bodies and kept going. Hearing the sound of a river nearby, we decided to get closer. Okay, we have a river. We should follow where it leads. Chances are the kobolds will be camped somewhere along it. The group followed the river and eventually found a walled-off camp full of kobolds. Izuku-san, can I take care of this one? With my explosion magic, I could destroy the whole camp in one blow. Megumin claimed. Izuku nodded to her. Yin-Yin already had her turn, so it was only fair. Megumin took his gesture as her cue to start chanting. Darkness blacker than black and darker than dark. I beseech thee, combine with my deep crimson. The time of awakening cometh. Justice, fallen upon the infallible boundary, appear now as intangible distortions. I desire for my torrent of power a destructive force without equal. Return all creation to cinders and come from the abyss. That is one long-winded spell, was the party's collective thought as the chant ended. Explosion. And exploded did. The entire camp, as well as the surrounding area, was completely annihilated. Nothing was left but a 20-meter crater on the ground. It reminded Izuku of Bakugo's howitzer impact, but about twice as powerful. After dealing with a small bout of PTSD and the ringing in his ears, Izuku walked up to Megumin, only barely noticing that she was about to fall again. Wow, are you okay? He asked in concern, catching her before she could faceplant. Why yes, explosion may be the greatest spell, but its mana cost is too much for me. As such, I can only use it once a day, and afterward I'm left immobile for a few hours. Sorry for not telling you beforehand, she explained sadly. It's fine. Honestly, that spell was pretty incredible. It reminded me of what one of my old friends could pull off. But you really should have told me beforehand. I would have prepared for it, and you wouldn't have to collapse like that. Izuku told her before grabbing a vial of water from his bag, dipping his hand into the water and letting the others watch as it turned into an opaque blue-colored liquid. Mana potions. Izuku had discovered them while experimenting with his mana yesterday. He could create them by focusing on the feeling of mana coursing through my body and pouring into a liquid. He then uses the transmute ability to power the process using random junk effectively, allowing for an infinite supply. Here, drink this. One of my skills lets me create mana potions among other things. It should help you get back on your feet. He handed it to her, but then remembered that she couldn't move. He brought the potion to her lips and let her swallow on her own. After a few seconds, she looked a lot healthier and even managed to stand up on her own. Sadly, Izuku hadn't perfected the transfer process yet, so she didn't have enough mana to cast anything, but it's enough for now. This potion that you made is incredible. Dad would kill for something like this. How many can you make? Can you make enough so that I can cast explosion more than once a day? She bombarded him with questions, and Izuku could only nod nervously in response. That was doable. Thank you, Al, thank you, Al, thank you. The overly excited, lowly wizard said as she attempted to hug Izuku to death. He took it well enough, but eventually got a bit embarrassed and tried to get her off. Okay, Megumin-san, I get it. Please calm down. I've come to my decision, and I think the others agree with me, Izuku said, stopping her bear hug as she paid attention along with Yunyun. I think I speak for all of us when I say that you're both more than welcome to our party, he exclaimed, getting cries of approval from Eris and Darkness. Welcome to the team, you two. Now we should head back. You two will receive 70% of the reward for your efforts, Izuku told them, getting surprised looks. Really, you would really give us? Yunyun started before stopping and using her hands to count. 252,000 Eris. I count for them, getting more surprised looks. Izuku-kun, you can do arithmetic, Darkness asked in surprise. Guess that kind of education was a rarity in this world. Yeah, it's pretty common in my world, Izuku says before realizing his mistake far too late. Your world, Yunyun asked, making me pale considerably. I can explain, Izuku shouted, getting an exasperated sigh from Erisville and a shaking head from Darkness for my blunder. That day we got 2 new party members, as well as 2 new heroes prepared to defeat the Demon King for the sake of returning Eris home. While everybody's favorite lowly duo have arrived, poor Izuku, the rumors are just going to get worse at this rate. Oh well, at least. They're the type of rumors that any man would kill for. Have a nice day, everyone. Green versus green and green. Today, Deku will face his greatest foe yet, the Green Pestilence. After several hours of explanations, confessions, and fervent denials that what he said wasn't part of his Chiyuni backstory, the 2 newest party members were brought up to speed on the situation and their end goal of defeating the Demon King and returning Eris to her home. Their reactions were both touching and a little worrying. You want to defeat the Demon King to return a goddess to her station. What a perfect grand quest for the 2 greatest members of the Crimson Demon Clan, Megumin proclaimed proudly. Ever since the 2 joined our party, she has been much kinder to Yunyun and included her into her Chiyuni speeches. Agreed. I would be more than happy to join you on such a virtuous quest. Alongside my greatest rival and new friend Megumin, I'll do my best. Due to Megumin acting more friendly towards her, along with the unwavering acceptance that we gave her as a party member, Yunyun had begun to indulge in her own Chiyuni impulses, though she still wasn't as over-the-top as Megumin. I guess you can say that they've balanced each other out, Izuku thought as the party of 5 sat around a table, talking in relative peace. Darkness and the 2 wizards were asking him questions about his old world, which Izuku tried his best to answer. How different is your world compared to ours was the first and broadest question they asked him. That's a pretty loaded question. To keep the answer simple, this world resembles the state that my own world was in a few thousand years ago. Technologically and socially speaking anyway, Izuku explained, searching for the words that best compared and contrasted the 2 worlds. So your world was more advanced. How? Exactly, you said socially and technologically. So I assumed that you had a lot more efficient manufacturing and agriculture or something similar. Darkness guessed, partially correct. That would explain the quality of those clothes you're wearing. The craftsmanship is so precise and uniform that it almost looks like a noble's garb, Megumin said a bit too loudly. Whispers started going across the guild hall as the others started eyeing Izuku up. However, he was too engrossed in conversation, so Izuku wouldn't notice the results until much later. Among other things, yes. For example, our world is very reliant on machines. Most human labor that would be considered tedious, time-consuming, or just strenuous in this world would be solved in minutes or even seconds with the use of machines. These clothes in particular are pretty high quality but nothing that the average person couldn't afford. It's actually my school uniform, and the manufacturing process that made them could produce hundreds of these in a few hours. He answered, giving context to his apparently high-quality clothing. School, did you go to an academy that explains how you know arithmetic so well? Darkness commented, Izuku nodded, remembering affeldly. Yeah, in my world, most countries make it mandatory for children to attend schools for about 12 years. Anything after that is optional, although not every country does it. I was in my 10th year of schooling before I came here. Mathematics was just one subject that they taught, albeit one of the more important ones for modern occupations. He described the system. Granted, there were a lot of differences across his world. What else can these machines you speak of do? Can they replicate magic in any way? Union asked, curious about whether magic will be taken over by machines too. In a way, you see, in my world magic doesn't exist, he said, getting loud gasps from the three. Instead, humanity relied entirely on our own ingenuity to get by. In the last 300 years, in particular, technology really started to advance significantly. He continued, enjoying how bright their faces look from his stories. As a general rule, most magic in this world can be replicated with enough effort and resources using mundane means, with the only known exception being teleportation, and even then our society has gotten pretty close with cracking that problem. Anything a dedicated mage could do in a few seconds, science could replicate, albeit with much less efficiency. We invented high-speed transportation that could move about 4 times faster than a horse, and that would keep moving at those speeds for 7+ hours at a time. We also had flying machines for moving long distances and across the oceans when boats were too slow. Halfway through his explanation, Izuku ripped out a piece of paper from his journal and started making sketches of the various machines that he mentioned. You're an artist too, Megumin practically shouted, which Izuku waved off. Nah, it's just a hobby of mine. I'm no professional or anything. In my world, it's best to have various talents to keep yourself versatile. My own profession was in heroism, so I needed to have some basic knowledge on how to draw, to sketch up criminals, and such. He explained why he knew how to draw. Izuku would show them actual images on the tablet later, but he can't exactly pull that out in public without a cover story. Maybe I can pass it off as a magic item, he thought before returning to the conversation. Heroism. That's a career. That sounds much better than an adventurer. Darkness exclaimed, her noble knight persona shining through at the thought of heroism being a legitimate career. The shining red eyes from the 2 lowly mages showed their own interest even if they tried to keep it together. All right, I completely forgot. You see, Izuku was about to go into a long tirade about the wonders of the hero society that he was so familiar with before the guild's speaker system interrupted him. Emergency quest. Emergency quest. We need all able-bodied adventurers to assemble at the front gate. That's all Izuku paid attention to as he stood up, nodded to his friends, and jogged off with them towards the entrance. On their way, Izuku noticed the panicked looks on the citizens of Axel. Erisfield-chan, do you know what this is about? He asked the native goddess. Was the Devil King army attacking? Were there seasonal monsters that were attacking? Oh, it's probably just cabbage harvesting season, she said in a dull voice. Izuku stopped running at that and looked back at Eris confused. Cabbage, she proceeded to explain the differences between his world's cabbage and this world's flying monstrosities. Well, I did sign up to go to a fantasy world, but this is a bit much even for me. Izuku thought, even in a world full of quirks, vegetables were still vegetables. As the cabbages arrived, they appeared like a swarm of locusts, numbering in the thousands. Izuku vaguely heard that each head was worth about 10,000 eris. At least this should be profitable. I wonder if a full-powered Carolina Smash would just dislodge all of their little wings. He thought to himself as they got closer. Nah, too risky. Izuku says out loud before activating full cowling and intercepting the swarm halfway. Being so far away from the city, he could cut loose with his speed, so he reached them in only a second. From there, Izuku treated it as a precision exercise. He tried to pull out the small wings of each cabbage without harming the main body. Getting into a nice rhythm, he managed to pull a large percentage of the swarm to himself, giving the other adventurers some breathing room. Behind Izuku, the adventurers were watching, completely stunned at Izuku's display of speed and agility. So much so that they barely noticed the wave of cabbages heading towards them. Luckily, Eris was still fully aware and protected the stun group, while yelling, "Get your heads in the game." I know he's impressive, but that's no excuse to let him do all the work. With that said, and with their vigor renewed, the adventurers joined the fray. Meanwhile, Megumin and Yunyun just watched from the sidelines. Sadly, their magic was just too destructive to be used against their tasty enemies. While this would normally mean nothing to Megumin, Yunyun managed to convince her to hold back. In exchange, she would take her new friend out to cast Explosion each day. Izuku POV. That's 80. This is harder than I thought. Keeping full cowling on permanently is easy enough, but the fine motor control that I need to calculate my jumps and strikes is unreal. Izuku muttered to himself before noticing how darkness was surrounded by dozens of cabbages. He thought she was fine at first, but then he noticed how these had enough strength to dent her armor. Delaware Smash. Izuku yelled out his attack without thinking. The shockwave scattered and grounded most of the cabbages surrounding darkness, while to someone with her durability, it just felt like a nice breeze. Izuku then made his way to her and noticed that her armor was almost completely gone, leaving only a black undershirt. He barely pays attention, though, as he grabs her and moved away from the bulk of the fighting. "Are you okay, Darkness, Sin? It looked like they were hitting you pretty hard back there." Izuku asked, only to get a moan from her. "Right, I forgot. Either way, it would be bad to just leave her back there, so I guess it's fine." Izuku turned back to the fighting and noticed that it was almost over. The only thing of note was that he saw a blue-haired girl helping out the other adventurers by providing water, and a boy in a green tracksuit using the steal skill to collect a large amount of cabbage. Two faces that he never noticed before, one of which was wearing highly unusual clothes. Another reincarnate, I should say hello later. But for now, I should check on Eris and see how much we collected. Izuku thought as he carried the still, panting darkness over to the two crimson demons who were relaxing at the back. "Have either of you seen Irisfiel-chan?" he asked them. They just pointed to where Izuku was fighting earlier. Eris was there collecting all of the fallen cabbages. You should probably thank her for that later. After it was all said and done, the party went back to the guild hall to enjoy some nice cabbage-based dishes, and to Izuku's surprise, they were super delicious and even provided a nice amount of EXP. By the end of that hunt and meal, he was already level 10 with a nice 30 skill points to his name, meaning that he could afford pretty much any spell on the list. He ended up choosing the spell Magic Canceller since they already had more than enough firepower on the party. A debuff spell will be a nice utility option for them. After finishing up his purchase, Izuku caught the eye of that guy in the tracksuit and headed towards him to say hello. He also noticed that the blue-haired girl from earlier was sitting with him, though the boy looked like he'd prefer if she were anywhere else. With the money I made from all those cabbages, I can finally move out of that dirty stable. Finally, I'll live someplace befitting of a goddess, she claimed loudly, getting a sigh of exasperation from her companion. "Excuse me, but did you just say Goddess?" Izuku asked her with a curious look. She seemed to recognize the green hero from earlier and proceeded to puff out her chest and say, "Yes, I am the goddess," was as far as she got before the boy put his hands over her mouth to stop her. "Stop calling yourself that, you idiot. It would be bad if—" He tried to whisper, but Izuku still heard it. It's fine. I'm also from Earth. In fact, I have a goddess in my party too." Izuku tells them, which gets them to stop. They started to notice my uniform and remembered how strong I was. Two obvious signs of a reincarnate. "Oh, that makes more sense. No wonder you're so strong. No way a rookie adventurer could do all that without help," the boy said, not knowing any better. "My name is Satu Kazuma. You can call me Kazuma. The ditz over there is Aqua, the goddess of party tricks." He introduced himself, and Aqua getting a squeak of indignation from her. "That name sounds familiar. Oh, so you're the goddess that brought Mitsurugi here. Eris-chan Sr. I gotta say, it was really irresponsible of you to send that guy here without warning him to keep everything about Earth secret. Izuku scolded her, getting a look of surprise and annoyance from Aqua. You know, my junior, is she the one that gave you that lightning armor thingy? She asked, annoyed at being talked down to by another mortal. No, that's just my quirk. My gifts were something else. Izuku answered. What a quirk? She asked, genuinely confused. Mortal terminology was a little iffy with Aqua, since she only watched over one relatively boring world before being sent here. Come over to our table. This is going to take a while to explain, Izuku said after a few seconds of bemused silence. 10 minutes of Kazuma-san, calling Izuku a lucky bastard later. So let me get this straight. You come from a world where superpowers are real. You died in a superheroic way while attending a school for actual superheroes. You then met the superior goddess over there, he said, pointing at Eris, who blushed while Aqua pouted, and got to get 2 gifts instead of 1 because of how you lived. Izuku nods. That was about right. Then she got kicked out of heaven for pretty petty reasons, and now you want to kill the Demon King in order to help her get back. He finished, a little out of breath from the admittedly hard-to-believe story I'd spun, especially since he was from a world where quirks were still just a fantasy. That sums up the situation, yes. Izuku confirms. Kazuma looked at the other party members, and then at Aqua, and said that he needed a minute alone. Well, that was weird. I guess he just needs a minute to process everything. Izuku muttered to himself before looking towards Aqua. Since you're a friend of Eris-chan, I wouldn't mind if you and Kazuma-san joined our party. I think the others agree. He offered while looking towards the rest of my party. They gave their own nods, and Aqua seemed to be very grateful for the help. Apparently, these two have been struggling for the last few weeks, with a minimal income from the lack of easy quests to complete lately. Luna explained that some big-shot demon general appeared close to the city, which caused all of the weaker monsters to scatter. Luckily, with the cabbage event over with, we should be economically stable for a good while until the general decides to leave. Speaking of which, what do you mean it's mostly lettuce? Aqua shrieked at. Luna, who had her cabbage, or lettuce as it were, stacked next to her. That's some seriously bad luck. Izuku kind of felt bad for her. So Kazuma-san, how much did you make after the harvest? Darkness asked curiously. He was quiet for a bit, but eventually replied. About $1 million. In a low tone, hoping not to get too much attention. Aqua got a glint in her eye and proceeded to try and seduce Kazuma. Stop that. Just tell me what you want already. I won't fall for your tricks, Kazuma said, seeing through the act in an instant. Please, Kazuma-san, let me borrow some money. I thought I was going to strike it rich, so I took out a large loan of 100,000 Eris, and now, thanks to that stupid lettuce, I can't pay it back. Aqua begged, tears in her eyes, and bowing down, hoping for help. Sounds rough, but Kazuma-san doesn't seem like the type of guy to just give you money, Izuku guessed, which was proven correct since Kazuma outright denied her. I'm willing to help you pay off that loan, but you'll have to pay me back afterward, Aqua-san. He offered. He can't just get her out of this scot-free, or she'd never learn her lesson. Thank you, Izuku-sama. You're a lifesaver, she yelled out while hugging his legs, completely soaking my pants with tears of what he could only assume was relief. Thanks for that, Izuku-san. I'm tired of fixing this bitchy goddess mistakes all the time. How much did you make off of them, anyway? Kazuma asked his fellow green adventurer, wondering how their luck would compare. About 2 million Eris, but since I'm dividing it equally among myself, Irisviel, Darkness, Megumin, and Yun, I only made 400,000. Izuku replied a bit sheepishly. But Yun, and I didn't even help out at all. Why are you giving us so much? Megumin asked their leader in shock. Yun and Darkness were also wide-eyed at this, not expecting such a large share, if any at all. You may not have done much today, but you're all still part of the party after all. You deserve a share, he tells them with a kind smile. It wasn't their fault that their magic couldn't be used in this scenario. You really are a wannabe hero, aren't you, Izuku-san? I can respect that. But if you keep this up, the rumors about you are just going to get worse. Kazuma warned me. Rumors? What rumors? Izuku asked him. This was the first time he's heard about any rumors. Well, you arrived out of nowhere and completely stole the show with your incredibly high stats. You then proceeded to break the record for the giant toad mission by a large margin. You then proceeded to publicly defeat and humiliate the town's strongest adventurer in under a second. You also have a team full of beautiful, powerful women that were often rejected by everyone else before you took them in. Kazuma summed up Izuku's situation in the best/worst way possible. So basically everyone here thought that you're some kind of wannabe harem lord. At first anyway, but then you actually kept succeeding, so now they think you're the real deal. Congrats, you've achieved every man's dream, he said while giving Izuku a buddy hug, who is currently frozen in place, trying to process what Kazuma just said with a massive blush on his face. What made it worse is that even more people started to stare at them after Kazuma's exposition. Their day ended with 2 new party members added, and yet another awkward social position for Izuku to deal with. Now that Deku is aware of his growing reputation issue, how will he react? Will Kazuma have any of his new bros' luck with women rub off on him? Will Aqua be useful? Find out next time on Dragon Ball Dash. Shit, wrong show. False plan, real results. No time for an intro, start. It's been 3 days since Kazuma and Aqua joined the party. Due to the Demon King's general that arrived earlier, they haven't been able to take any quests either, so each of the members chose to spend their time improving themselves. Aqua decided to get a part-time job. She was selling cabbages, ironically enough. It was the only way for her to gather enough money to repay Izuku for his loan. Surprisingly, she's been working hard ever since and has nearly earned 100,000 Eris. Kazuma and Eris were outright shocked by her show of resolve, while Izuku was just proud of her. Megumin decided to practice her explosion magic each day. Yun Yun and Kazuma accompanied her to carry her back after she ran out of mana, which took a bit longer than usual since she asked Izuku to provide her with 6 mana potions a day to maximize her explosion training. It was also pretty good training for him, so he readily agreed, even managing to improve his mana efficiency using transmutation. Darkness decided to go back to her home and train physically, although Izuku thought she might have been hiding something from them. Oh well, everyone had their secrets. Eris was re-establishing her information network that Chris had. She also paid a visit to the local church of Eris when she heard complaints about greedy priests, though the leads dried up after that. As for Izuku, he had a whole routine going on. During the morning, he helped Kazuma with combat training. Since the former NET came from a relatively peaceful world and had no knowledge of how to fight, they decided that even basic training would help a great deal. Afterward, Izuku would make 6 mana potions and hand them to Megumin. Then Yun Yun, along with an exhausted Kazuma, would join her in her explosion training. After eating lunch, he would train in using One for All. Not much changed after only 2 days, but he did manage to get his startup time a little faster, as well as lower the stamina drain. After exhausting himself, he went on to practice with his transmutation skill. The most important thing for him to learn at the moment being how to convert physical matter into mana directly and in a safe way, which was much easier said than done. It was basically learning how to use One for All over again. Even the tiniest grain of sand would be converted into an insane amount of mana all at once. He would absorb all that he could, and the rest would have to be discharged in some way. What sucked was that the discharge was always a violent one, rivaling one of Bakugo's stronger explosions each time, and left Izuku's arms a mess after each use. Luckily, Aqua was there to heal him up after each close call, officially canceling the debt she owed him as payment for the help. The look of joy on her face was priceless. After this, she quit her part-time job and began to help me train full-time. Getting to know Aqua was an experience for the young hero. She wasn't mean or anything, just simple would be the nicest way to describe her. She was fairly blunt, which might drive others away, but after dealing with Bakugo for years, Izuku barely noticed it. Finally, at night, the party joined together for dinner at the guild hall. Afterward, They headed to the inn where they all slept in. Kazuma and Izuku would tell stories about their respective worlds to the natives. Izuku told them about Hero Society, what he was trained for, and even some stories from his days at UA. Pretty much everyone was enthralled by the stories. Even Kazuma, who wanted to learn more about Izuku's world hero system and advanced technology. On the fourth day, we were having a rare day leisure. Darkness had come back from her home and reintegrated as if she never left. Izuku got curious and asked the two goddesses questions on what exactly a Dullahan was, including their weaknesses, strengths, skills, etc. Surprisingly, they both had a wide depth of knowledge involving the undead. Even Aqua had insightful comments on them. So Dullahans are weak against water, holy-based magic, and possibly fire. So, essentially, if a Dullahan were to fight our group, it would die instantly. Izuku pointed out with a bit of a deadpan. Kazuma was also facepalming at the moment, while the others looked confused. Kazuma decided to elaborate. Water goddess, goddess of luck, explosion mage, fire mage, and Izuku essentially provides both of them with infinite mana. He points at each of the respective members of the party before pointing at their leader. Hell with our combined luck stats. I'm sure either myself or Irisviel-chan could just steal its weapons without much effort. Kazuma finishes off, further cementing just how screwed the demon general would be if it fought them. The party was sent into deep thought at the news. It didn't last long, however, since Luna entered and yelled, "Emergency! Emergency! We need all adventurers to arm themselves immediately. Make your way to the main gate and prepare yourselves for battle." The party collected their gear and headed off towards the gate with a bit of energy in their step. This time Luna sounded far more scared than with the cabbage quest, so this was probably serious. Izuku prepared several mana potions on the way there, just in case. Something tells him they're going to need them. When the adventurers finally reached the gate, they were met by a heavily armored headless figure riding an equally headless horse. Speak of the devil, or Dullahan in this case. Izuku much-read to Jim's self as Beldia introduced himself, calling for blood. While he was mid-rant, Izuku began a plan on how to deal with him and managed to come up with something fairly coherent. Beldia ranted about how someone kept firing explosion magic at his castle for the last 3 days. Knowing exactly who did it, Izuku decided that this would be as good a time as any to try out that plan he came up with. He walked up to Aqua first. She would be the linchpin in all of this. I'm going to walk up to him and talk. When I call your name, cast the strongest turn undead spell you know. The others should take care of it from there. If all else fails, use your strongest water spell. Instead, Izuku instructed her. She gave him a nod and gave Beldia an evil smirk, not that the horseman could see it. Next is Kazuma-kun and Eris-chan. Izuku thought as he walked up to them. Kazuma was panicking while Eris simply gave Beldia a death glare. When Aqua casts Turn Undead, use your steel as many times as possible. Keep trying until it works. If it fails, just stand back and let Megumin handle the rest. With that said, Izuku went to the two mages who would deal the finishing blow. Megumin was trembling. Yun was trying to console her, but she was shaking as well. Seeing that they were scared, Izuku placed his hands on their shoulders, which seemed to calm them down, at least a little. He then whispered into their ears, "It's going to be okay, you two. I have a plan." Their shaking stops, complete trust in their friend, overpowering the fear. If all else fails and the steels don't work, hit him with your magic Megumin. Yun stay close to her and help her drink mana potions after she casts her spell. Otherwise, just provide covering fire. I'll handle the rest, he tells them, handing them his bag full of 4 potions, which was all he could make on such short notice and mid-run. The plan is set. We have several contingencies in case anything goes wrong, and if it all fails. Izuku thought to himself while looking at his fists. Then let's see him survive a full-powered smash to the chest. With that mental battle cry, he walked up to Beldia with confidence in his step. The undead cutting off his rant as it sensed a worthy challenger approaching. I sense a great deal of power in you, young wizard. Were you the one that attacked my castle? he asked while trying to intimidate Izuku with his horse. Though if the green mage was being honest, it just looked ridiculous without a head. Correct. I guess you finally took the bait. Who would have thought that a general of all things would leave their stronghold after being annoyed for a few days? Itsuku lits musli. Beldia was taken aback by this while the adventurers ate the story up. You're an undead general, right? Let me guess. Now you're going to summon a bunch of weaker undead minions. Well, go ahead. Summon as many as you like. It won't make a difference. The green hero taunted. I need to thank Kazuma later for those bluffing lessons. They're more useful than I thought. How dare you? Fine, you asked for it. Come, my undead knights. Give them a taste of hell. Beldia yelled out, summoning about 3 dozen undead soldiers. Each comparatively low level, but still a force to be reckoned with for newbie adventurers. There. Now, with his minions out, we don't have to worry about a counterattack. Izuku thought and set his plan into motion. Aqua now, he yelled, the goddess immediately unleashing a prepared spell. Sacred turn undead. Aqua called out. The results were instant. Beldia was left screaming on the ground, screaming and rolling in pain while his minions stopped in their tracks, confused on what to do now that their leader was out of commission. Soon afterward, too, shouts of steel were heard, Eris managing to grab his great sword, while Kazuma got something a bit more vital. At Kazuma, said in curiosity as the screaming noises got closer to him. He looked down and noticed that he was holding a still screaming head. He gained an evil smile and called out to the other adventurers. Hey, want me to show you guys an old game that we played back in my homeland? It's called football. He exclaimed before playing with Beldia's head like a European football, before passing it over to the others. Honestly, it was hilarious, but they didn't have time for that. Megumin, don't get distracted. Cast explosion on his minions before they can react. Izuku ordered, which she followed enthusiastically. While she was casting, Izuku called out to the adventurers that were playing with the Dullahan's head, gave a few more orders. Listen, anyone that can cast create water, use your spells on Beldia's head. It should finish him off. Izuku called out, getting yells of approval. Wait. I can't die like this. Not in this town of noobs. Was all he managed to say before he was drowned in a torrent of water. His eyes losing their red glow, and his body, which was left on the ground, smoked purple. One explosion later, and it was smoking for different reasons. Holy shit, he actually did it. He planned it from the very beginning. One of the adventurers said while pointing at me. Wait, no, it was all a bluff. Sure, the plan went better than expected, but I didn't want him to come here. He even made it so that we could all participate in our own way. He's so thoughtful. A young female wizard with wavy red hair. I didn't really think about that, but I suppose it is nice that everyone got to help out. I bet the EXP rewards have to be massive for low-level adventurers. And now that general's been taking care of, the weaker monsters should return soon. He to save the town from financial ruin, Luna announced, earning Izuku another round of applause from the adventurers present. Please stop. Izuku thought in embarrassment as a tall, muscular man stepped up. He was a regular in the guild, if you remember correctly. And now, not only do we get our regular income back, but we also get to cash in the reward money for killing the general ourselves. That seems to have broken the camel's back. Everyone got on their knees at that point and said, "Thank you, Izuku-sama," at the top of their lungs. The green adventurer in question couldn't take it anymore and ran off to his room. Hopefully, this mess will calm itself down by tomorrow. Kazuma POV. And there it goes again. I'm 100% sure that Izuku and I didn't plan for that horseman to come here. I guess those lessons I gave him came in handy. I said before, laughing out loud. But now that poor, lucky bastard is even more famous, I wonder how high that general's bounty was. I thought before noticing that the crowd was staring at me too. Hey Kazuma. Megumin called out. Yes, I'm Kazuma, I respond. Did you know about Izuku-kun's plan too? Is that why you're laughing? Even I didn't know about it. I just went and trained my magic like normal. She asked me, the other adventurers listening and hoping to hear more about Izuku's legendary plan. Thank you, Izuku and I, for giving me such a golden opportunity. I praised my new blood brother as I proceeded to spin the longest yarn of bullshit that I've ever come up with. If this doesn't get us free meals, then I don't know what will. I thought, while also imagining the more adult advantages fame would grant me. Ah, Deku, the world's best wingman, and he doesn't even realize it. Well, that's one general down. 10 to go. Or 9, I guess, since it was in my protect at all costs list. I hope you enjoyed this chapter. The next update for Somebody Had to Do It will take a bit of time. I just need to write the scene in a more believable way. I prefer making good chapters in 2 to 3 days rather than mediocre quick chapters. A lich, a mansion, and a surprise. Time for Izuku to deal with the fallout of Kazuma's BS Genji. I might be fudging up the dates a bit with this chapter, but it shouldn't be too bad. Guild Hall, day after the master plan. 300 million heiress. Izuku yelled out after hearing just how high Beldia's bounty was. Not that I'm ungrateful, but why are we getting the full reward? Shouldn't the bounty be split amongst everyone that participated? Sure, their party did most of the work, but everyone else also took part. Plus, it was their fault that Beldia attacked the city at all, so he couldn't help but feel guilty taking all of the rewards. The other members of the guild agreed to give all of the monetary rewards to you and your party. If it weren't for your help and that genius plan you came up with, we probably wouldn't have survived much longer economically without the easier quests. Luna explained to the party. If Beldia had stayed around for much longer, even if he didn't attack, the city's finances would have gone into the red. Plus, you killed a demon general. That alone is a feat worthy of the highest level hero. Personally, I wish we could have done more for you. Luna vowed gratefully, a blush on her cheeks. Finally, a truly heroic male adventurer who wasn't a total tool. I'm sorry, but I can't accept this for my own reasons. If you have to give me that reward, then I want a quarter of it to be divided amongst the other guild members and another quarter for the guild itself. It's the least I can do for roping you all into my plan. Izuku hated taking credit for what he didn't do, but if he told them the truth, then Megumin, Kazuma, and Yun might suffer for it. Izuku-sama, as a representative of the guild, and as a woman, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for this. That was a simply insane show of charity, especially for their small branch of the Adventurers Guild, which wasn't exactly swimming in money. With this, they could even afford to pay off all their debts from the week of inactivity immediately. Well, Izuku had reached his limit for awkwardness for that day. He simply nodded and walked away toward his party. Darkness and Eris were giving him kind smiles for what he did, while Aqua and Megumin were giving me 2 thumbs up for some reason. Yun just looked confused, and Kazuma had a shit-eating grin on his face. I'm going to find a way to pay him back for spreading those rumors. Damn it, Kazuma-kun. I know I wanted to be the #1 hero, but this is too soon. Izuku cried internally as he glared back at Kazuma. This was going to take weeks to get used to. At least now, he had a shit ton of money to distract him from all the attention. So as you probably overheard, our sum total reward for killing Beldia is 150 million Eris. Divided equally, that adds up to about 21 million Eris each. So essentially the party made enough to live comfortably for the next several years easily. I have a suggestion on how to spend this, but I will need you guys to approve it too. They looked curious and asked Izuku what he wanted to purchase. There's a mansion for sale. It happens to be in this city right next to the graveyard. Apparently, it's being sold for dirt cheap due to an undead infestation. Being famous did have its perks. The adventurers and citizens around town keep giving Izuku good information on stuff like this. With Aqua here, we can easily exorcise most, if not all of them in a day. After that, it would only cost us 100 million Eris to buy it outright. We can use this as our base of operations for the foreseeable future. Plus, we'd be helping the community by getting rid of the undead problem before it gets too bad. With his sales pitch out there, Izuku waited for their responses. Kazuma and Aqua were the first and the most enthusiastic. A mansion? Hell yeah. Shut up and take my money. Kazuma cried out in elation. Taking out the undead is only natural for a high-level goddess like myself, and a mansion would be a much more suitable domain for me. Aqua followed with almost equal fervor. It's not a bad idea. This way we can talk with each other more often, and we can even train together as fellow archwizards. You have my share, Megumin said with a pose. Yin just nodded, a little embarrassed by her friend's antics. But underneath her shyness, she was practically exploding in happiness at the thought of living together with all her friends. Eris shrugged. We already live in the same place anyway. It would be nice to have a proper bed again, though. I'm in, although I think we should do a few more quests to pad out the costs. This would leave them with a little over 7 million Eris each. Certainly, a large amount, but the furnishing costs alone would probably take a big chunk of that away. Darkness blushed heavily when she realized the implications of 5 girls and 2 men living under the same roof. Itsuko-kun, I didn't know you had it in you. I'll support this idea in any way I can. The dark fantasies going on within her head remaining a mystery to the still innocent hero. Something about Darkness' promise is making me nervous, but at least she agreed. Izuku thought before continuing with the plan. The infestation has been tracked down to the aforementioned graveyard. Information is limited, so all I know is that the event that brings the undead out occurs around midnight. We should head out by nightfall and camp there until it happens. After that, they agreed to meet up just outside the graveyard after sundown. Graveyard, midnight. Kazuma, pass the cabbage, Megumin said while filling her plate with her late dinner. The party had decided to eat their food here since they were going to be waiting for a while anyway. The party was split, however. Yin and Darkness decided to go home and pack their things in advance, which left Izuku, Kazuma, Megumin, Aqua, and Erisfiel to deal with the undead. It should be about that time, Izuku thought as he finished his meal. Low-level undead started to pop out of the woodwork as soon as he did. Strangely enough, they barely even reacted to the living, even with 2 goddesses so close to them. Instead, they were all walking towards a single direction. It's time to move out. There's some really high-level magic being cast in that direction, and whatever it is, it's attracting undead like a moth to a flame. As we got closer to the source, the magic users of the group noticed a glowing magic circle on the ground, at the center of which was a mage in purple robes. Whatever they were casting was definitely advanced. It seems like it was sending the nearby spirits off to somewhere. Izuku was about to speak up and ask the caster a few questions, but their resident water goddess beat him to it. Filthy undead, how dare you cast whatever unholy magic you're using in my presence? She yelled out while messing up the circle on the ground. The caster was obviously distraught by this and begged her to stop. It was a little sad to look at, honestly. Aqua, hold on. Let's hear her out at least. Whatever she's doing seems benign at the very least, so it would be wrong to just assume she's harming anyone. Izuku called out to the water goddess, who looked shocked at the green hero for defending an undead, but relented anyway out of respect. Now that I think about it, Eris has also been glaring at the caster this whole time. Izuku thought to himself in slight worry. Was the discrimination between the gods and undead that strong? Excuse me, miss, but what exactly were you doing here? Or more importantly, why are you reanimating the dead? Izuku asked calmly, though the last part had a bit more heat to it to emphasize that he was serious. The caster, Wiz, went on to explain that she was just helping the wandering spirits get to heaven. She said that the local priests of Eris were greedy, so they gave the private cemeteries more attention, all but neglecting the pauper cemetery. Eris was taken aback by this. She honestly felt horrible for what her own priests were doing, and even more so that she failed to catch them. Needless to say, a few money grubbers suddenly lost their divine favor and luck for the foreseeable future. If they wanted it back, they had to change their ways and offer some serious apologies to the souls they wronged. Meanwhile, the Lich was apologizing for the trouble she caused, but most of the party waved it off, saying that she was providing a service. However, Izuku had a better alternative. We're sorry for disturbing you then, but we have to ask you to stop doing this. It's attracting too many undead and causing problems for other people. Don't worry though. I'm sure Aqua here is more than happy to send these souls on their way, Izuku said, pointing at Aqua. Leave it to me, Izuku-kun. I'll do it in the name of the Axis cult, she declared, getting a squeak of fear from Wiz. Well, that was odd. What's wrong? Izuku asked, worried about what could make a lich feel fear. She's part of the Axis cult. They have a reputation for being completely insane. She let out in a panicked voice, trying to hide behind Izuku for protection. What? Who said such mean things about my children? Aqua yelled out in righteous anger. Whoever was spreading such baseless rumors about her faithful subjects were asking for a god blow to the face. No way. You're the head priestess of the Axis cult. Wiz looked even more scared now. Somehow her skin paled, even though she had no pulse to begin with. Aqua gave her a smug smirk and struck a pose. That's where you're wrong. Filthy undead, she said before Izuku lightly smacked her over the head. No need to be rude, Aqua. Kazuma was right. Sometimes this girl needed a little discipline to get her on track. She whimpered for a bit before continuing. I'm not the head priest. I am the goddess Aqua herself, she claimed boisterously, flaunting a bit of her holy energy. Wiz was practically shivering now. At this point, Izuku felt bad, so he put a hand on her back to try and calm her down. Don't worry. You've done nothing wrong, so she won't hurt you, I promise. Now, since that cat's out of the bag, I guess I should introduce you to Arisfiel-chan as well. From that name, I assume you can guess who she is, he said before noticing her eyes widen, though not in fear this time. Wiz bowed as she caught Era's constant glare. Era-sama, I ask for your forgiveness. I may be an undead now, but just know that it wasn't by choice. I was turned into this by a greater evil. So please have mercy, she said solemnly. Era's glare lightened significantly at this, and as Izuku gave her a pleading look, it stopped altogether. Fighting her own nature as a goddess, Eris took a deep breath and tried to let logic override her base instincts. I understand. If you did not become like this by choice and only chose to live peacefully after being turned, then you have done nothing truly wrong. I can accept this, Eris answered with a neutral tone, still not 100% behind the idea. Aqua just pouted and went along with it. If Eris could look past her being an undead, then she could tolerate it as well. Good. Now that everything is settled, we should go back to the guild to explain what happened. I'll leave out the part about a lich being the main cause, of course, so don't worry about that, Wiz-san. By the by, is there any way we can contact you later? You seem to be a powerful spellcaster, and I would like to exchange tips with you if you're willing, Izuku asked politely. It never hurt to have more friends after all. She told the party about a shop she owned in the city before leaving the area, making sure to pick up after herself on the way. After which, Aqua purified what she could at the moment before the party decided to walk back. Thankfully, after they explained the situation, the guild decided to still give them the reward, since while there was no zombie master, they did manage to stop the root of the problem anyway, so it was still a success. After receiving their reward, the party slept and came back to the guild the day after, where they ate breakfast together before heading towards the mansion that they planned to buy. This place is huge, Megumin exclaimed, and it really was, especially for something made in the medieval era. When you said mansion, I expected a large house, not a huge manor. It even has its own wall, Kazuma added with a huge grin. He wasn't used to this level of wealth. The only thing it was missing was the modern conveniences they were used to, something that Izuku had plans to change soon. It looks like something a lesser noble would live in. You have good taste, Izuku-kun. It even has a small forest at the back that we could use for training. Darkness added her 2 cents. Guess when you're the daughter of a duke, a house like this isn't too impressive. Yin just sat back, shaking in excitement. She never thought that she would live in such a lavish place. Eris gave the place a once-over and approved of it as well. Now we don't have to share a room anymore, Izuku-kun, unless you still want, of course. She teased me. Izuku let it go with only a minor blush. Living with Eris for a few weeks had given him a slightly higher resistance to teasing. Compliments still got to him, though. As the party settled in, a well-dressed gentleman who was the former owner of the mansion walked out of the building. Originally, he would let whoever finished the quest live in the mansion free of charge. However, since Izuku was willing to pay despite that, he came up with an alternative. Instead of just buying the mansion itself, Izuku and the party would buy the land around it, and the building itself would come as a bonus. Good afternoon, Izuku-sama. Here is the deed to this land. I've already made it official with the local governor and Duke Dusty-sama. Take care of it, along with your vassals, he said before bowing and leaving the green hero with yet another awkward situation. Did he just say vassals? Wait, does this place make landowners into nobles? Izuku thought in panic before looking back at the others. Everybody was looking at him with wide eyes. Except for Eris and Darkness, he could tell Eris was laughing at him on the inside. Darkness, however, had a weird contemplative look on her face. The rumors were real, Megumin said while pointing at Izuku, a playful smirk, but also an unmistakable blush on her face. What rumors? Izuku yelled back, completely mortified by what just happened. My rumors, Kazuma admitted shamelessly, publicly laughing his ass off, unable to keep it subtle as Eris did. Damn it, I didn't know being a landowner made you a noble. Izuku freaked out further, rushing into the mansion to drown out his anxiety with a modern soft bed. Baron Izuku had arrived at his new home. So, those rumors had a grain of truth in them after all. Or at least they do now. How will the other adventurers react to this? I wonder this also means that Lalatina has a new potential suitor that is politically viable. If you guys didn't know, a baron is a minor noble title used by either new nobles or nobles that have never really amounted to anything past being accepted. It's just above the title of knight and below a viscount. P.S. for any guest reviewers on My Hero ACA reading FIC who asked me this question. Yes, I do take suggestions, just don't expect them to make it in immediately. I like to be familiar with the FIC or franchise before I write about it, so it will take me some time to read the source. Poltergeist Report. Okay, so the poll is officially closed tonight. I should have done this sooner realistically. The harem option has consistently topped the list at over 60% of the vote. So this story is officially a harem story. In addition, I'm going to add another poll for Kazuma. You guys will decide who he gets with, if anyone at all. It can be anyone except Eris. She's reserved for Izuku. Anyone else is fair game. The poll will be open tomorrow. P.S. today will be a short chapter. I'm working on Somebody Had to Do It, and after the normal chapter of watching, I'll have a long-awaited version of Izuku make his debut. Trust me, it's going to be a long one, so please be satisfied with this for now. Waking up in the middle of the night in the most comfortable bed that he'd ever slept in wasn't how Izuku thought this day would go. But nature calls, so what can you do? He cracked an eye open and immediately regretted it. There was a chair next to his bed that was not there before. What made it worse was the creepy Victorian-style doll that sat on it. I need to find Aqua-san, Izuku whispered, wide awake now. Getting out of bed at record speed, he ran towards Aqua's room. Aqua-san, wake up. I can't deal with ghosts on my own. I can't. Punch ghosts. Izuku knocked on her door frantically. It opened to reveal Megumin of all people. What are you doing in Aqua-san's room? And where is she? We have a problem. He asked her in a confused panic. I don't know where Aqua-chan is. I wanted to ask her for a favor, but she wasn't here. She answered. Her thighs were also rubbing against each other, so Izuku could guess what that favor was. Okay, this could still be worse. We need to find the others and warn them. There's some kind of poltergeist in this mansion. Izuku briefed her on the issue. Megumin's eyes widened in obvious fear before nodding in agreement. There was protection in numbers. First, we tried Aris in hopes that as a goddess, she would have something to deal with the ghosts. Sadly, her room was empty for whatever reason. Her bed was also cleanly made and her clothes were neatly folded, so it didn't look like there was a struggle. We tried Darkness Room next. Isuku-kun, I know you're the master of this house, but it's too soon. You even have Megumin-chan with you. Has her young mind already been corrupted? She said with an atomic blush on her face. The two other members gave her a deadpan look. Please give me a moment to prepare myself, she said while slowly assuming a precarious position. Izuku simply shut the door and left. I guess that leaves us Yin-Yin-san, and Kazuma-kun, Izuku muttered, deciding to leave Darkness to her own devices. She looked like she needed time to cool down. The two approached Yunyun's room and noticed that she was already awake and out of bed for some reason. Did you see the ghost too? Izuku asked, not sure why she'd be awake otherwise. Yunyun cocked her head in confusion. Ghost, no, I just felt like Megumin-chan was awake, so I woke up on instinct. Yunyun said with a smile. Well, that isn't creepy at all, the other two thought, unknowingly mirroring each other's thoughts. The group decided to accept Yunyun's quirk without questioning it, and ended up heading to Kazuma's room last. Came the girlish scream of who they could only assume was Kazuma. I guess he found the dolls. Izuku thought before running in the direction of the scream, followed by the two crimson demons. As they turned the corner, Izuku saw Kazuma running towards them in a dead sprint. Kazuma-kun, calm down. They may look scary, but they're still just dolls. Don't panic. Izuku yelled at him, which made him slow down and catch his breath. Sorry about that, Izuku and I panicked when I saw that thing in my room. Where's Aquabaka? Or Eris-chan? We need them for this. He asked in a panic. No idea. Neither of them were in their rooms, and darkness is being herself, so we decided to investigate ourselves. A plan formed in Izuku's head. It wasn't ideal, but it was the best he could come up with. We need to get outside. Whatever this thing is, it has the advantage in tight spaces. He told them, but they looked unsure. What's wrong? Izuku asked, confused. Sorry, Izuku and it's just, I kinda have to use the bathroom. Kazuma admitted. Crap, I forgot about that. Megumin looks equally embarrassed. And to make matters worse, I'm starting to lose my grip on it too. Izuku rewrote the plan in his head. Okay, we'll deal with that first. We need to move in a group. Each of us has to stand in a circle around each other to minimize possible blind spots. Also, keep in physical contact. We don't know if the ghost has any audio tricks up its metaphorical sleeves. It was pretty rudimentary, but it was the best Izuku could do on such short notice. You gotta teach me how you come up with all these plans on the fly, Izuku-kun. It's seriously impressive. Megumin complimented after a few seconds of silence. Yunyun shook her head in agreement, her eyes glowing again. Why seriously, it was a really basic plan. Even Kazuma just gave a simple nod. He knows the basic slasher movie rules. I guess it's just an Earth thing. The people of this world do have their own different kind of common sense, but in most cases it was so different from Izuku's own that it felt stupid at times. Regardless, the party headed towards the bathroom at a quick pace. Before anyone could react, Kazuma rushed in on his own with no consideration for anyone else. Needless to say, Megumin looked pissed, Yunyun just blinked, and Izuku simply gave the bathroom door a disappointed stare before addressing the two crimson demons. Look alive, everyone. We can't let our guard down when it comes to these things, Izuku said right before a scream rang out from the distance. It sounded like Aqua. Luckily, Kazuma finished soon after. Kazuma-kun, let's go. We're heading towards that scream to find Aqua. Yunyun and Megumin should stay here and finish there. Business. As the green duo ran ahead, they could vaguely hear a shout of, Crimson demons don't need to pee or anything. They decided to ignore it. Kazuma-kun, stick close to me. I can't do much against a ghost, but I can buy you time if they reach us. Izuku says. With a gulp and two nervous nods, they sprinted towards Aqua's scream. As it turned out, Aqua was just fine. In fact, she was fast at work casting Turn Undead dozens of times in a row. Aqua-san, stop casting that weak-ass spell. Use AoE magic, Kazuma yelled. Aqua stopped at the sound of his voice and proceeded to facepalm before using her sacred Turn Undead. A magic circle spread out across most of the mansion, eradicating the dolls in one fell swoop. Kazuma and Izuku let out a sigh of relief as the oppressive aura from before disappeared. Good work, Aqua-san. That was probably most of them. Izuku congratulated her, earning a smile and blush from the happy goddess. We should really look over the mansion to see where they came from. But for now, let's go back to Megumin-san and Yunyun-san. They must be terrified after everything that happened. He finished, worried for his younger teammates. But also he really needed to go. Hell, the only reason I'm not using one for all is because it would just make my metabolism even faster. Izuku lamented over one of the more mundane weaknesses of One for All. As the group approached the bathrooms, they noticed Megumin step out of the bathroom, Yin keeping watch. "Hey guys, the ghost should be dealt with by now. Please try and find Eris-chan and Darkness-chan and head outside. I'll meet you all there, but for now," Izuku said before going into the bathroom. 5 minutes later, everyone, including Eris and Darkness, was waiting for Izuku at the front of the mansion. "Eris-chan, we tried to find you in your room, but you were gone," Izuku asked curiously. She just gave me a sly grin. Era, you came to my room in the middle of the night, only to find my discarded clothes. How cliché. I trust that you didn't do anything naughty with them," she teased. That one finally broke Izuku. What? In no way. Megumin-san was there, too. He panicked before realizing that it could have been taken in an even worse way. "I knew it," Darkness yelled with a dumb look on her face. Again. Meanwhile, Eris was giving Izuku a shit-eating grin. Kazuma gave him a thumbs up. Yin looked confused, and Megumin. She came up to Izuku and hugged him. She even patted him on the back. "At least I have someone on my side," Izuku thought before shaking his head and getting to the point. Forget it. We can't waste time right now. We have to find out where that poltergeist came from." "Aqua-san, do you have any powers as an archpriest that can help us?" he asked her in hope. "Yeah, sure. Just give me a minute," she said nonchalantly. Her hands started to glow, and she began to tell us the story behind the poltergeist. They expected a short paragraph at most, just the useful information. Instead, Aqua started spouting out what amounted to a generic soap opera that could make any second-rate fanfiction writer jealous. That was an oddly specific metaphor, Izuku thought before heading to the back of the mansion. There was a small hill there, which according to Aqua held the grave of the girl who was causing all of this. Climbing up, Izuku found a small, dirty gravestone. His expression darkened upon seeing it. No wonder there's a poltergeist. Nobody deserves to be forgotten. He picked up a stone from the ground, and using transmute, he partially changed it into a clean rag and a soapy solution. Izuku did his best to fix up the stone, cleaning it with the rag and patching up a few cracks here and there using transmute. After a few minutes, the others walked up to the gravesite and noticed what Izuku was doing, deciding not to interrupt until he was finished. Izuku finished fixing up the stone to the best of his abilities, before performing an old prayer that he learned back in Japan. He even threw in Aqua and Eris names while he was at it. Apparently, they heard it since it made them eat behind him, grabbing Izuku's attention. "I found the issue. The poor child that died here. Her grave was left alone and forgotten. I think that so long as the stone is maintained, she shouldn't be angry with us anymore. Just in case, though, Aqua-san, please purify this land so that she may rest in peace," he said solemnly. Aqua, for once, didn't brag or complain. She just nodded and does as she was asked. The party members were all tired by then and decided to call it a day. Hopefully tomorrow won't be too chaotic. Izuku doubted any of them were going to get a restful sleep after tonight. "Sorry, little green, but an orderly day just isn't in the cards. Your luck is through the roof, but it isn't perfect, so I gotta counteract all the good with a little bad." Next episode, Recurring Problems. Recurring Problems. Okay, so let me get this straight. Mohawk Bro started as he looked down at the most famous party in Axel, the leader of which was planting his face squarely on his table, while the others were giving Izuku amused looks. "You became a noble. By accident," he yelled, which just made the green archmage slam his head on the table again. "Seriously, bro, your life is just one big event after the other, huh?" A series of laughs came from the whole bar as the guild teased their green hero. "Oh, come on, chin up, lad, have some pride in your accomplishments," he said, patting Izuku on the back before walking off. Asterisk sigh. Is this what All Might felt like when his fans cheered for him? At first, Izuku muttered a bit too loudly. "Who's All Might?" Luna asked from behind him, startling Izuku and making him jump up from his seat in. "Sorry for scaring you, Izuku-sama. But who is this All Might with a name like that? He must be really strong." She asked him. Izuku was hoping to avoid this, but he guessed telling Luna would be fine. She was always kind to him and the party, even before they became famous. Izuku looked around to make sure that nobody was listening other than his own party before he answered. Okay, I'll tell you Luna-san, just please don't tell anybody else. I can't show you today, though. I have to finish a few quests so that I can afford to furnish our new home. After we finish, I promise that I'll answer your question. Izuku said with a small bow, apologizing for keeping her waiting. She panicked at this and quickly asked him to stop. Izuku-sama, please raise your head. A noble shouldn't bow to a lowly waitress. She whisper-yelled, blushing all along for whatever reason. Izuku frowned and looked Luna in the eye, getting her to stop her panicking. Nonsense. We've known each other long before I became a noble. You're my friend Luna-san, not some lowly waitress, and that won't change because of some measly title. He told her with no room for argument. She was shocked silent by this, but accepted it in the end. She apologized for causing a scene and gave Izuku a kiss on the cheek before leaving, blushing madly as she did so. Izuku wasn't much better as his inexperience with girls made itself known. And the girls are giggling at me. Kazuma is giving me a thumbs too. He sighed internally, deciding to drown out his embarrassment in work. Anyway, we really should get on with picking a quest, Izuku said, walking towards the quest board with his party. As they did, Aqua walked up to Izuku with a quest almost perfectly made for her, and with quite the high reward too. Izuku-kun, look, this quest was made for me. Purifying a lake. We don't even have to kill the giant alligators that live near it, and the reward is a whopping 300,000 Eris. It really does sound good, almost too good to be true, but he trusted his team. Good work, Aqua-chan. This quest doesn't look very difficult. In that case, we can split the party for this one. You, Darkness-chan, Megumin-chan, and Yun-Yun-chan can finish it on your own. Erisfiel-chan and I will go with Kazuma-kun to Wiz's shop. He's apparently shown interest in visiting her, plus the shop could have some interesting items. With that plan in motion, they went their separate ways. However, before they left, Izuku upgraded the material of the cage that Aqua was going to use, just in case. The otherworldly trio entered Wiz's shop about an hour later. She was in the middle of dusting as she noticed us, a smile appearing on her face in recognition. Hello, Itsuku-kun. Katsuma-san Eris-sama. It's a pleasure to see you all again. What brings you to my humble shop? She addressed them politely, genuinely happy to see the three. Good morning, Wiz-san. Kazuma-kun wanted to meet you again. He didn't elaborate further, though. I also wanted to meet you again and check out your store, so I tagged along with Eris-chan, who insisted on joining me. She beamed at the mention of business. Of course. Please have a look around the shop. If there's anything specific that you might want, please don't hesitate to ask me, she said enthusiastically. Izuku smiled at her and nodded an acknowledgement head. Meanwhile, Kazuma walked up to her and asked her for a skill. Apparently, an adventurer could take skills from any class, even undead ones, albeit at a higher cost. Eris looked a bit annoyed at this, but didn't raise an issue. She's learned to hold back her prejudices a bit after meeting such a kind lich like Wiz. I would be happy to help you, Kazuma-san, she said and showed him her skill Drain Touch, a very useful skill just in case Aqua was unavailable for healing or if Megumin and her Union needed a mana supplement when Izuku wasn't around. Speaking of Izuku, Wiz asked for him to be the test dummy, which he was fine with. He barely felt a thing, in fact. Apparently, he had a decent mana resistance for an archwizard. After that was done, Izuku browsed around the shop to see if there was anything he might want. Say, Wiz-san, what are these potions here? They aren't labeled or anything? He asked while holding up a red vial. Oh, that one you're holding explodes when you throw it, she answered enthusiastically. Izuku placed it back, very carefully. While that would be useful, I can already make bombs on my own. Also, Wiz-san, please label potions from now on. If anyone showed up and wasn't as careful as me, things could have ended poorly, Izuku told her. She looked appropriately chastised and promised to do so ASAP. Can I assume that the rest of these potions have similar properties? He asked. As it turns out, they were. This one over here explodes when you open it. She explained the various bottles. Why would anyone use something like that? Sounds like a suicide trap, Kazuma yelled out in alarm. Wiz looked a little ashamed. She was used to this, apparently. Don't be like that, Kazuma-kun. It could be useful if you had some kind of disposable minions to open it for you, Izuku said, trying to console Wiz. It may be a niche use, but if I learned anything at U.A, it's that anything, no matter how specific, can be useful under the right circumstances. And Izuku truly believed what he said. Even a super specific quirk like Minetta's could be useful in combat and certain rescue situations. Kazuma looked a bit sheepish at that and apologized. Wiz was particularly happy that she had been defended, but also looked a bit confused. Thank you for that, Izuku-kun, but what's U.A? She asked the green hero. He really needed to learn to keep his mouth shut. Oh well, it's just Wiz, it should be fine. U.A is the academy that I went to. Its main goal was to raise the next generation of heroes, he told her, holding up the institution with the appropriate level of reverence. Wiz was a bit taken aback by it, but she eventually calmed down. That sounds interesting, Izuku-kun. It's strange that I never heard of it. You seem to hold the place with very high praise. Well, if someone like you learned at such a place, then it must be great. To say Izuku was flattered would be an understatement. Usually, that comment would go the other way around. This just felt surreal for him. Thank you, Wiz-san. To be honest, I never finished my schooling. In fact, I had to leave before my first year was over, so I'm not that. Impressive, Izuku admitted with a slightly bitter tone, still missing his old life. Oh my, I'm sorry to hear that. Still, you're more than worthy of the title of hero. Honestly, I can't imagine what a graduate of this institution would look like if you were just a first year. Wiz continued to praise him. Izuku was tomato red after that, but tried his best to calm down. Maybe I'll show you some other time, but for now I would like to ask for a specific item, or a commission if it's possible. He asked Wiz, grabbing her attention immediately. Commission items were rare and very profitable, so it was understandable. If I have it in my shop, or if creating it is within my power, I would be more than happy to accept your patronage. She answered with a bow. She might even break even today. Is there anything that you have that can help me regulate my mana without limiting my mobility barring that? Is there any healing item here that can directly convert mana into healing energy? And if not, then is there anything that you have or can produce that could withstand a force similar to an explosion spell or above? Izuku asked at rapid-fire speeds. The party could practically see the swirls in Wiz's eyes as she tried to make sense of what Izuku just asked for. He noticed this soon enough and apologized before repeating the questions, one at a time, and much slower this time. Okay, in order. No, there isn't an item that I have ever heard of that can do that. In theory, if you were to mold a piece of manatite into a gauntlet of some kind, then maybe, but it would still be rather heavy and cumbersome. She answered the first question, giving him a bit of hope. Oh well, Izuku would have to go with Plan B. There are a few items that can heal you in exchange for a direct burst of mana, but they're difficult to find and I can't make them myself. Healing magic isn't really my specialty. Makes sense for an undead, Izuku guessed. And finally, the only known material that could handle a full-powered explosion spell would be the armored hull of the destroyer. Other than that, I have no idea. She finished in a sad tone. Sadly, it would seem that she wasn't getting paid that day. Asterisk sigh. It's fine. Those were long shots, I'll admit. Still, it would feel wrong to leave without buying anything, so. Do you happen to have any healing potions on hand or potions that help resist either magical attacks or specific elemental attacks, Izuku asked. This time she perked up and showed us her rather large collection of potions. Unfortunately, most of them were either too expensive or simply too dangerous to use. Wiz-san, please be more thoughtful before you buy such things to sell. Please remember that this is a beginner's town, so most adventurers won't have that kind of money to spend. Plus, a lot of these seem like more trouble than they're worth. Izuku tries to reason with her. She just lowers her head in shame. For such a smart and powerful person, she's a bit of an airhead when it came to her business sense or lack thereof. Maybe we can help you with this sometime. Kazuma-kun, do you think that you could help out Wiz-san with her business during the winter while we have some downtime with quests? It would be a nice side venture for you. Plus, you could use some of our ideas from back home and possibly sell them off with magical equivalents. Izuku suggested. which got him into a thoughtful pose. Kazuma looked intrigued by the idea. That, and Izuku saw a creepy smile appear on his face. He nodded a bit too quickly, but Izuku decided to let it go. Was looked more than happy to bring down the mood. I can practically see the yin signs in his eyes. Izuku thinks to himself in amusement. After the trio finished their business, Izuku handed was 40,000 Eris as payment for letting Kazuma learn her skill. She tried to deny the payment, but he insisted it was rude of them to come over and not buy anything after all, and the skill was more than useful enough to warrant the payment. By the time they left the shop, it was almost night. The three were heading down the road for a late dinner at the Guild Hall when they noticed a large wagon carrying a cage with a familiar blue Annette inside. Now, Aqua being in a dumb situation was very much par for the course, so the trio paid it no mind. What wasn't common was seeing a blonde knight trying to break into the previously mentioned cage and failing miserably while yelling out Aqua-sama like an idiot. I've seen enough, Izuku thought, a flat look on his face as he headed over and grabbed Mitsurugi by his scarf. Mitsurugi-san, what have I told you about causing a scene? Please step away from the cage. It's obvious that Aqua-san doesn't want to deal with you right now, he says while pointing at the goddess who was slowly getting out of her fetal position. You again. What have you done with Aqua-sama? It's obvious that she's distraught, and why is she in a cage? In fact, why is she even here? He screamed, basically spitting in Izuku's face. The green hero moved back a bit and explained the quest that she was on. Then he went in closer and whispered the reason why Aqua was in the mortal world in the first place. Needless to say, Mitsurugi was pissed and not at Izuku for once. I demand that you free Aqua-sama at once. She deserves better than this. The blonde swordsman made his demands to Kazuma, who was having none of his crap. The hell? Why are you asking me to do that? She chose to go into that cage herself. I had nothing to do with it. Kazuma defended himself before being lifted up by his shirt. Izuku decided to intervene at that point, but darkness beat him to it. That's enough out of you. This is the second time that you've overstepped your bounds with my party. If you don't stop now, I'll make you regret it, she said in a fierce voice. Say what you want about her hobbies, but when push comes to shove, darkness would defend her friends. TSK, another adventurer in green who needs women to defend him. Are you two brothers, or something? Mitsurugi asked in a low tone. That was a bit of a stretch, wasn't it? And wow, sexist much. Yeah, I know I call him Izuku and all, but that's just a term of endearment. We aren't related by blood, Kazuma explained, getting a few surprised looks from the growing crowd. I guess we do look a little similar, but I didn't think the people thought of us as brothers. Kazuma thought to himself. Not that he minded, Izuku was a brother in arms anyway. That's about as close as you could get to a blood brother. So the story of the light and dark princes was just a rumor. A girl said in the crowd, in a sad tone. The story of what now? I guess it was too good to be true, but they were just so close to each other. Close, of course, we're party members and fellow earthlings, so we have to stick together, right? Wait. If they aren't brothers then, does that mean they're lovers? That would explain why Izuku-sama never accepted any of our advances. Izuku's eyes widened and Kazuma straight up choked on his own saliva. We aren't gay. They both yell out in unison, faces as green as their eyes. And what advances? I thought you were all just being nice. Izuku yelled as the women in the crowd deadpanned at this, and Kazuma glared at him. That's it, you're getting a girlfriend. I won't allow any more rumors about us to spread, he declared. Izuku blanched a bit and tried to respond, but was interrupted by Mitsurugi, who was still there for some reason. Stop ignoring me, Mitsurugi yelled out. Listen, Kazuma Satu, I challenge you to a duel. If I win, then you will turn Aqua-sama over to me. If you win, I'll fulfill one request. He challenged, of course. Kazuma wouldn't do something so foolish. I'm in. Here I go, he said quickly before drawing his short sword and rushing at Mitsurugi, catching the swordsman off guard before using steel to take his magic sword. One bonk on the head later, and Mitsurugi was out cold. Again, this was the town's strongest adventurer before we came, Kazuma asked himself in genuine confusion. That was an even faster fight than he'd thought it would be. Holy crap, Kazuma-sen beat Mitsurugi-sama in a single hit. Kazuma looked a little smug at this. Wow, I thought he was just hanging off of Izuku-sama's coattails, but he's really strong too. He lost the smug look after that one, replacing it with an annoyed frown. That fight was a bit underhanded though. I guess he really is the dark prince in the group. An older woman said with a sly look on her face. What is this called again, karma, I think. Izuku mused to himself with a small smile. The rest of the party and I decide to leave Kazuma to his fate. Today was productive, and tomorrow, Izuku was going to start up that side project that he's been meaning to do for a while now. Honoring the past. Today is going to be a short chapter for the LOLs. It's not going to have much impact on the story, and I just wanted to write it for the sake of it. I brought this up with one of my reviewers, but if I get enough approval, I might make another side story. It will be a spin-off of this one where the characters just spent time goofing off and watching/reading/reacting to various things from Earth. Sounds fun to me, and I hope you guys agree. This chapter would be a little taste of what it would be like. After the second Mitsurugi incident, the party decided to head back to the guild for Aqua's well-earned reward. She was so traumatized that Izuku decided it would be okay if she were to decide on what furniture to get for the house, which had the expected effect of lifting her spirits almost instantly. They also picked up Luna while they were there and invited her over so that Izuku could tell her about All Might. He just hoped that he wouldn't mess this up. It went without saying that Luna was impressed by the mansion. So big, she exclaimed while staring wide-eyed at our home. This was her first time staying over at such a large place. I've really made some friends in high places, haven't I? Luna thought to herself. Oh, if she only knew. I had the same reaction, Megumin added, happy that one of her friends decided to visit. Most of the girls in the party were good friends with Luna, the lovable guild member taking on the role of a big sister to Megumin in particular. Thank you for the praise. We just got a few days ago, so it's not quite furnished yet, but we should be able to buy some by tomorrow. Anyway, let's head inside. I'll be able to tell you about All Might there. This will be the first time that the others have actually seen him too, except for Arisfield-chan. Izuku thanked her, getting the others even more excited when he said they'd get to see the man himself, though they wondered exactly how the Green Archwizard would do so. This should be fun for all of them, and it will help me introduce the concept of higher technology into this world. I wonder what if I should show them the footage of one of his fights. Izuku questioned himself. They all ate dinner at the mansion this time. Izuku decided to cook for them all, making his personal favorite food, katsudon. The others seemed to love it, though Izuku could have gone without the hungry stares they gave him as they watched him cook. He was going as fast as he could. Izuku even turned some of the larger boulders outside into modern appliances for convenience and specialty food preparation. They now had a fridge, a stove, and even a dishwasher, all powered by an electric generator that Izuku created. Thank you, Internet-sama. The fuel was almost too easy to synthesize, just a string of carbon atoms surrounded by hydrogen. Where are all of these magic items you have? I've never seen them before, and they look so useful. Luna asked Izuku, who seemed proficient in the use of each one of them. He answered by telling her that he made them himself, which wasn't a total lie. Izuku felt a little guilty, but he couldn't exactly tell her that he was from another world. After the group of friends finished eating, they sat down in a semicircle so that each had a good view of the tablet. Izuku searched up pictures of All Might, and the others got to see him in all of his muscled glory. Holy shit, does that guy put muscle milk in his Cheerios or something? Kazuma summed up his muscle form. The dude looked like he could turn coal into diamond with those things. You'd think that, but that's just his muscle form. His true form leaves him as a lanky, almost skeletal man. Normally, Izuku wouldn't even think of telling anyone about All Might's true form, but being in another world is a pretty decent excuse. Well, he certainly looks like he earned that name. How do you know him anyway? Is he famous or something for where you come from? Izuku and Luna asked the one who knew him best. Izuku smiled radiantly and began telling her about All Might and what he did for a living. He's basically my country's greatest hero, but he's also my mentor. Or former mentor, I guess. He said with a bit of sadness. The man was like a father to him. It's too bad he'd probably never be able to see him again. He's your mentor. Does that mean that you two have fought alongside each other before you're already so strong, Izuku-kun? I can't imagine how strong this All Might guy is. Megumin asked in excitement. Now that he thought about it, I might actually be able to show you guys one of our team-ups. Give me a minute. I gotta check to see if they saved the footage. Somewhere. As Izuku looked for a certain video, Luna kept watching him in awe, probably from how useful the tablet was. To her, it probably seemed like another super-tier magic item or something. Anyway, after he checked the I-Island official website, Izuku found what he was looking for. Here it is. The attack on I-Island that happened a few weeks before I came here. All Might, my classmates, and I did our best to defeat the villain that caused it all. The fight itself was pretty big, so I'm not surprised that they saved the footage. Here, watch. Izuku said in a bit of excitement. Honestly, after a few days of letting the adrenaline and exhaustion from that day fade away, Izuku realized that he fought side by side with All Might. It was incredible and one of Izuku's greatest sources of pride. The footage showed All Might being crushed by several tons of metal wreckage and then impaled by several spears of scrap metal. Melissa yelled out for her uncle as Izuku rushed in to destroy his metal prison. Izuku-kun, you're bleeding. This was a really dangerous fight if both you and All Might took so much damage. Darkness commented, worried about just what kind of enemy could deal that kind of damage to her powerful friend. Was she blushing? As All Might and Izuku spoke to each other, the natives of Belzerg were confused. Thankfully, Kazuma provided a translation, explaining that it was the language of our homeland. As the two heroes charged in at full speed, the party was thrown for a loop. Wow, I didn't know you were so fast, Izuku-kun. I can barely see you move here, and All Might-san is just as fast. Luna exclaimed in excitement from the fight. The two heroes on screen were about to be hit by a barrage of metal projectiles and pillars before Bakugo and Todoroki stopped them. Hey, that guy can use explosions too. It's like that thing you did against the blonde idiot the first time. Megumin spoke up, enamored by Kaken's explosive quirk. Izuku should have guessed that she'd be drawn to it. Yeah, I actually use Kachen's power as a baseline for that. His sweat is explosive and he can detonate it at will. He's also a fighting genius in general. Izuku tells her with a small hint of hero worship. Still in his voice, regardless of what happened, Bakugo was still more than worthy of being called a powerful hero. What about the ice user Aqua? Asked me in curiosity. The frozen half of her native element interesting her. It was rare to see a human who could utilize so much of it and with such skill. The fact that the user was a shirtless badass that looked like Prince Zuko didn't factor into it all. That's Todoroki-kun. He can control fire and ice, but he prefers his right side. They're both friends and former classmates of mine. I also consider them my rivals, even if Kachen would never admit it. Izuku mused that last part to himself. Back to the fight, the sheer difference in power that Izuku displayed there compared to what the party knew about him was very noticeable. Izuku-kun, why are you so much stronger in this fight compared to normal Yun asked him. It's because of that gauntlet that I was wearing. It allowed me to safely use my powers at around 30% without any drawbacks. Sadly, it can't handle any more than 3 of my punches at 100% before it breaks. He explained. Luna still looked curious though. Izuku-kun, did you create that weapon too? If so, why haven't you made another one? She asked. Izuku smiled and remembered his new friend fondly. They never did get to know each other very well after the I-Island incident. Things were just too chaotic for that. I didn't create that. Remember that blonde girl from the beginning? Her name is Melissa Shield. She's a genius inventor who created the full gauntlet. She gave it to me as a gift, and as you can see, it saved me more than once that day. He answered, a smile on his face. The girls shared a look with each other, but decided to push that issue for later. 30%, 100%. What are you, some kind of anime character? If you have to limit yourself, then what percentage do you usually use? Kazuma asked him. What was next? 1,000,000%. Was he going to pull that power of friendship stuff too? I use around 5% in a fight. If it got me all of those high physical stats on my guild card. I could probably go a bit higher now, though, since my body has gotten so much stronger from all the leveling up. Izuku answered him. He really should stress test that later. Damn, if that lighting armor you have is you at 5%. I don't even want to know what a 100% attack from you feels like. Kazuma quipped, rubbing his chin a bit. Izuku might have overdone it a bit during one of their spars. The fight had reached its climax. All Might and Izuku were jumping in the air and preparing their double Detroit smash to finish it. After the fight was over, Izuku took a moment to bask in a memory of my greatest victory for a bit longer. The others just looked slack-jawed from the combo attack that All Might and his past self pulled off. Not that Izuku blamed them. Seeing it from a third-person perspective was pretty epic. I must say, Izuku-kun, you're even more impressive than I thought. If you ever recreate that gauntlet, I have no doubt that you will be this world's greatest hero, Luna said with a great deal of energy and sincerity. Izuku blushed at the praise and gave her his best smile. Before he knew it, she had gotten closer and planted a kiss on his lips. Izuku started sputtering madly, trying to react in any way that wasn't a complete spaz fit. The last thing that he saw before he blacked out was Era's playful smirk as she and Megumin, for some reason, followed Luna's example. Deku. Yexi has stopped working. Error. Female contact overload. Attempting to reboot. Reboot failed. Emergency shutdown initiated. His world turned black. The last thing Izuku heard before he lost consciousness was a lucky bastard. From Kazuma. Corruption begins. Soft. That was the first thing that Izuku felt as he woke up from his unexpected nap. I really need to control myself more. In a fantasy world like this, being weak to beautiful women is a fatal flaw. It truly was succubi, vampires, demons in general. Emotional strength was just as important as physical and mental power. You're not wrong, Goshijin-sama. A voice said from far too close to Izuku's ear. He cracked a single eye open and saw something that made his heart stop. Literally. He had to use one for all to restart it and everything. Eris was lying down next to him. That wasn't the best/worst part, though. Is she wearing a fucking maid outfit? Indeed she is. Do you like what you see? A voice teased. Izuku really needed to control his muttering. This couldn't be real. And why was Izuku's pillow so warm and moving and talking to him? Izuku looked up this time, and green eyes met with sapphire. Gee, good morning, Jigashiden-sama. Do you like your morning W? Wake up, Darkness said with a soft voice, shaking voice. She was blushing but tried her best to play the part. Now Izuku did what any introverted, inexperienced, hormonal teenager would do in this situation. He started freaking the fuck out and trying to get out of bed. He even straight up kicked Darkness in the stomach with a one-for-all powered leg in his panic. Though with her durability, it just felt like a regular jab. Oh my, Izuku-kun, you know just how I like it. She broke character while trying to regain her breath. Izuku ignored her. Sadly, this had the opposite effect, and she just got even more excited. Suddenly, the door to the bedroom opened up and the two lowly archmages entered, still in their pajamas. It's not what it looks like. Izuku yelled out, trying to hide his shame from them. All of this stimulus was having adverse effects on his one and only weapon. Izuku-kun, I thought you were better than this. Not only did you drag poor Irisfield-chan and Darkness-chan into your bed, but you forgot to include us. She yelled out in indignation. In his panic, Izuku didn't notice the huge grin on her face as she said it. He just entered the Dejiza position and started begging for forgiveness. Is it because we're too young for you, or are we just not attractive in your eyes, Yin-Yin said with a few tears in her eyes. Genuine tears. She actually wasn't part of any of this. Nobody trusted her to be able to lie well. What? No. You're both beautiful. All of you are. I would never think otherwise. Izuku yelled out, trying to console his friend with a hug, forgetting that he had another problem to worry about. His torture wasn't over, though. Luna had woken up as well, still in her waitress outfit. She walked in on Izuku hugging Yun-Yun while a half-mast. Oh my, the rumors were true. Izuku was brought to tears by that. What rumors? Please someone just tell me. He begged internally. Luna looked at the rest of the women and noticed how Darkness and Arisfiel were both in maid outfits. She blushed and asked Izuku a question that pushed him over the edge. Do you think I could join? The green mage had just about enough for today as he burst out of the room and headed for the baths. He needed a cold bath after that. It looked like Kazuma had the same idea. As Izuku joined him in the large bath, Kazuma gave him a look. Something wrong, Izuku and I. You look stressed, he asked. Izuku sighed and told him what had happened. Lucky bastard indeed. About those rumors. Most people around the city think that the girls are all part of your harem. He cleared up. Izuku's eyes widened at the revelation. That explained way too much. And those that don't, well, they think that we're, either actual brothers or gay for each other. Or God forbid, both that we both want a little green in the face. They had nothing against homosexuals, but the idea of dating each other was. Just know. What about you, Kazuma-kun? Do you have any rumors about yourself? Izuku asked him, hoping for some common ground between the two. Yeah, other than our shared ones, our whole party has quite the reputation, remember. Most people think that we're some kind of highbrow crew full of important people. Hell, some of them even think that we are some kind of banished royalty from our home country, or something. Izuku sighed at that one. Being a noble was bad enough. Now people thought he was some kind of disgraced prince. It was just too much. He needed advice, badly. Kazuma-kun, I need advice, badly. He could have phrased that better, but it will have to do. And as sad as it sounded, Kazuma was the most reliable person he knew in this world other than Eris. Dude, I died a virgin. I am not qualified for this shit. If I had to say anything, just count your blessings and let things happen naturally. Trying to fight back at this point is just asking for trouble. Actually trying to fight women and their feelings is just suicide in general. That was surprisingly good advice. It's true that if Izuku tried to rein things in now, then the girls might actually kill him for leading them on, even if it was unintentional. Plus, I am a man who is being offered a relationship with several extremely beautiful, intelligent, and charming women. Who could refuse something like that? Izuku admitted the more selfish reasons for his decision, but again, who could really blame him? Thanks for that, Kazuma-kun. I'll be going now. I have some work to do for today on my own. If you guys want to go questing, go ahead. Without me, Izuku told him. Kazuma looked confused, but wished his brother in arms luck anyway. 3 hours later in the back shed. I hope all of those compliments on my intelligence were right. Izuku mumbled to himself as he looked at the public blueprints of Melissa Shield's magnum opus. It was incredible. The material alone was very exotic. It would take the highest quality equipment just to manufacture, or a magical transmutation ability. I'm not even going to pretend to understand how these nanomachines are supposed to work. I guess I won't be able to reproduce the wristband mode that the original had. Melissa was truly a once-in-a-generation genius and a hard worker to boot. If it weren't for his 2 gifts, he would never be able to replicate this. Izuku came out of the shed wearing his newest piece of equipment, an honest-to-God replica of the full gauntlet. However, this one was extended all the way to his shoulder, and it resembled a red medieval gauntlet more than the original boxer wrapping look. The biggest difference, however, was that he had 4 of these armor pieces, one for each limb. Needless to say, he just increased his combat proficiency by a large margin. The legs in particular just resembled the leg portion of standard plate armor, but with a bit more flexibility. Izuku decided to take them out for a test drive. The land around the house was his property after all, so it was a perfect place to test these kinds of things out. Okay, let's start with 30% for now. Izuku, though, looking out towards an empty kilometer stretch of land, activated full cowling and moved. The feeling of moving roughly 6 times faster than ever before was hard to describe. He remembered that All Might was known to move so fast that he could cover several kilometers in a matter of seconds. I guess this is how he felt when he really cut loose. I only needed a leap once, and I already covered half of the distance. Not only was it much faster than usual, but I didn't feel any strain at all. If I really push myself, I might be able to handle 50%, as if it were my base 5%. It must have been all of the level ups. He'd become so much stronger in the past month without even realizing it. EXP farming was kind of scary. Izuku returned to an empty mansion. He guessed they went to the guild hall after all. He decided to join them and tell them the good news. But before that, maybe I should get into character. Izuku said to himself with a smirk. Time for a little blast from the past. Guild hall with the party. Hey, Kazuma-kun, what happened to Izuku-kun? Aqua asked her partner, since he was the last one to see the green-haired mage before they left. He said something about working on a project. Other than that, I have no idea. Kazuma replied, equally confused about what was taking his honorary brother so long. A squeaking door gave the adventurer his answer. A familiar green-haired figure walked in through the door, but his attire was pretty eye-catching. He was wearing his hero's suit. Most of his party had seen it before from pictures, but this was the first time they saw it in person. And those pieces of armor, could they be? Luna also had a wide-eyed look when she saw them, the incredible piece of equipment and its effects still fresh in her mind. As for the rest of the guild, wow, Izuku-sama, you look like a real adventurer now. Not like that military-looking garb you had earlier. What is that stuff made of anyway? It looks like fabric, but it also has a toughness to it. And those armor pieces don't look like any metal I've ever seen. Mohawk Bro asked the important questions. Izuku was a bit surprised by this, but answered to the best of his abilities. Well, the outfit itself was the old costume that I wore on the job. It's made of an ultra-light and durable material that can deflect most bladed weapons and even soften punches and explosives. The armor is special, though. I made it myself. Well, the original design and concept were made by one of my good friends, Melissa, but this particular set I made myself. He explained, stumbling a little with his words. You're a blacksmith, too. Is there anything you can't do? He asked in genuine surprise. The rest of the guild seemed to agree with him. A powerful warrior, an archmage, a genius inventor, a mathematician, a multimillionaire, and a fucking noble. Seriously, dude, you keep making the rest of us regular guys feel inadequate. He said, half joking, but some others seemed to take that to heart. Nonsense. Just because I can do all these things doesn't mean I'm any better than you guys. As far as I'm concerned, we're all fellow adventurers. For whatever reason, that just made them feel even worse. You're way too humble, man. I know we went over this before, but please have some pride in your work, bro, Kazuma said, patting Izuku's back. Besides, all of your rep keeps giving me respect by proxy. So if you can't believe in yourself, just believe in a me that believes in you. He whispered right after. Old reference aside, he's not wrong. Humility is great and all, but All Might didn't get to where he was by putting himself down. Izuku thought in contemplation. As he looked around for a bit, his eyes locked with darkness and then with Eris. He walked up to them and whispered to them, making sure that the other members wouldn't hear. We need to talk in private later. They look a little worried at that, but agree in the end. Izuku debated on whether to include Megumin and Yin too, but they weren't part of that whole fiasco, so Izuku decided to wait for confirmation on them. He needed to nip this in the bud before it becomes a problem. Luna would have to come later. Izuku still had things to do that kept him busy. Winter was coming after all. This time he addressed my whole party on their financial status. After the huge purchase of the mansion along with the land around it, Izuku doubted they had much to work with, especially with the spending habits of a certain goddess. Okay, everyone. After all of our expenses have been taken into account, the original bounty money of 150 million Eris would be reduced to 50,300,000. Aqua-chan, how much did the furniture cost us? Izuku asked their resident alcoholic, who thankfully was sober when he got here. I found some really luxurious decor, and it was at a great price, along with shipping and installation costs. Aqua started, smiling all along. Kazuma wasn't having any of it, though. Spit it out, you greedy goddess. Her smile faded a bit, and she said 40 million Eris in total. The other members took a collective breath. You spent the equivalent of $400,000 on furniture. Izuku couldn't help but yell out in clear annoyance. That was our winter. Budget. Great, now I have to bring in even more modern appliances to keep up with our dwindling budget. We can't afford firewood for the winter now. Central heating it is. Izuku bounced back as fast as he could. Aqua looked even worse at this. She knew that the green mage wouldn't hold a grudge, and that just made her feel even guiltier. With Aqua-chan's overzealous purchases, that leaves us with about 10 million eris to make it through the winter. I'm not gonna lie, with 6 of us living together, the budget is gonna be a bit tight. Thankfully, I have my ways of making this work. Just leave it to me. He tried to calm down the rest of the party. It ended up working, thankfully. They knew their leader would never lie to them after all. And Aqua-chan, my voice grew a bit sinister. As punishment for abusing the budget, you will be helping out Wiz-san at her shop with Kazuma-kun. You're to follow their orders to the letter for the rest of the month. He left no room for argument. She needed to learn not to abuse his trust like this again. Izuku's voice softened a bit at the end, though. Those crying blue eyes are a deadly weapon. If you do a good enough job, I'll shorten your time there. Just promise me that you will never do this again. She nods rapidly at this and bows. Thank you, Izuku-kun. I promise I won't do it again. She seemed sincere. Izuku let her go after that, and with a renewed vigor, she and Kazuma headed off for the shop to start the day's work. Let's head home for the rest of the day. We have some things to take care of before the day is over, he announced, getting nods in return. But before then, he needed to head over to Luna and ask her to visit us later when her shift was over. She deserved to let her desires be known too. Today is going to be a busy day. I just hope that I can end it with nobody getting hurt. Izuku thought to himself as he mentally and emotionally prepared himself for what was to come. Izuku is in for a rough week. The timeline has been pushed forward by a bit. Hopefully, with his new skills and a bit of his golden luck, he'll get out without dooming himself. Izuku's chaotic night. Izuku-kun, just so you know, my father's going to send us some crab and fine wine as a housewarming gift. He also said that he wanted to meet you someday. Darkness informed her leader, much to his appreciation. Crab, that's quite the delicacy, especially since Belzerg is landlocked and currently at war. While her father is a duke, it makes sense that he would like to meet his daughter's noble friend. That was a can of worms to open at a later date. I'll have to thank him for that later. While we walk home, I should probably tell you all what I plan on doing. I have a way to heat our home without spending too much on fuel. It's an invention from my world that I should be able to build easily enough. With the budget that we have left, food is the only real issue. Izuku gave them the gist of the situation. They seem to be following so far, so he continued. Theoretically, I could fix that as well. My transmutation skill could give us a virtually limitless supply of food, but I'm nowhere near confident enough in that ability to make something biological, let alone edible with it. So that solution is off the table. He explained the limits of his power. They accepted that one easily enough as well. So, here's the plan. Kazuma-kun and Aqua-chan will be working at Wiz's shop for the next few months. With any luck, we should have a consistent stream of money flowing in every few days. Until that happens, we have to be careful with our expenditures. Before we keep going, is there anything I should know, anything at all, he asked them. Unknown factors would be bad. He needed to have as much information as possible. Accounting was a mundane, but essential skill when you're low on funds. Megumin looked like she was about to speak, but stopped halfway. Yun frowned and said it for her. Megumin-chan gives most of her money to her parents back at the village. I can make up the sum if I have to, so don't worry, Izuku-kun, she declared with conviction. Megumin giving her a mixed look, partly betrayed at the leak in information, but also touched that Yun was willing to pitch in to help. Izuku's eyes softened at this. That's okay, I understand. Don't worry too much about it. And Yun, please don't push yourself. This just means that we need to take a few more quests during the winter. He could also just make gold using his transmutation, but that just screamed fraud, so he'd rather leave that as a last resort. They arrived at the mansion soon after their conversation ended. To their surprise, there were several boxes full of fresh crab right outside of the house. This must be that gift you talked about, Darkness-chan. Your father works fast. Izuku exclaimed. This was unexpected, but not at all unwelcomed. The trio began to cook them immediately. With their modern appliances, it was much easier and faster than it would have been, and they even wrapped the food in sets of aluminum foil that Izuku produced for them. I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to take a bath early before eating, Megumin said before heading for the large bathing area. Yun decided to join her as well. Leaving Izuku with his apparent maids, he blushed at the memory. It's about time anyway. Hopefully, I can power through this. So, can someone explain to me what happened in the morning? Izuku started the conversation with the most important point. Eris gained a small smirk and responded with a sultry, mature tone. Izuku. Did you like it? My blush was instant, and so was my rebuttal. I'm not in the mood for this right now, Eris-chan. I need a straight answer from you two. Are you both interested in me as more than a friend? Yes or no? Izuku made his question clear. This wasn't the time for teasing or false flags. It was the girl's turn to blush this time. Thankfully, Darkness took initiative and answered for both of them. Why, yes, we are. I'm sorry if what we did back then was too much, but she stammered over her words a bit. Eris decided to finish for her. We tried the subtle way, Izuku-kun, but I'll be brutally honest. You're denser than those gauntlets of yours. I was afraid that you wouldn't get it without extreme measures. She answered, making Izuku feel more than a little silly. It's not his fault that he had no experience with girls. And for the record, Megumin-chan and Yun-chan feel the same way. They were supposed to be the little sister roles, but you went full Dejiza mode before they could play their part. Eris elaborated. Them too. This was just getting too complicated for Izuku's poor heart. Ding dong. And Luna's here. Was he going to survive this perhaps? But it will almost definitely be his toughest battle yet. Izuku told them that he would get the door. Opening it, he saw a surprised Luna with her finger over the doorbell. Good evening, Izuku-kun. Is this another invention? It's pretty useful for such a large home, I imagine. She greeted me and asked with an excited look, why did you want me to come over? Not that I'm not grateful. It's not like a waitress like me can visit such a lavish place in general. Well, that wouldn't do. Luna-san, let me make this clear. You are more than welcome here, with or without an invitation. Don't think of yourself as any less than a good friend of our group. Izuku tells her, with no room for argument. Luna was a bit taken aback, but hugged him in gratitude for the acceptance. As Izuku led her into the kitchen, Eris noticed them, and her eyes widened slightly in realization. So you brought Luna here too. Good on you. That will make this easier. She walked up to the two and looked directly at Luna. He finally figured it out after a little performance in the morning. Just so, I don't mind sharing with my good friends. She said with a large smile now. Luna blushed heavily at being found out. And are you okay with this, Izuku-sama? Would you have me? She asked with a low, almost scared voice. It was Izuku's turn to look uncomfortable and nervous. Prepared or not, being asked something like this was well beyond Izuku's wheelhouse. I would never deny any of you if you just asked. To be honest, this is the first time that any girl has been interested in me in that way, as far as I know. Frankly, I'm extremely flattered. I'm also surprised that you would agree to share me so easily. That part in particular was definitely unexpected. Is that normal in this country? Is it really that surprising? It's not uncommon for powerful adventurers to have multiple partners. In fact, it's encouraged in Belzerg due to the declining population from the war. The nobility is also known to have multiple partners in general. Luna explained to him. He responded by telling her that those kinds of relationships were outlawed in his home country. So, does this make us official, all of us? Izuku nervously asked them. They all agreed to it easily enough. We can take it slow if you want. Lord knows we've been patient enough before you figured it out. We can wait a few more weeks so that you can be comfortable. Eris decided mercifully. Izuku thanked them profusely for that. He wasn't ready for that kind of commitment so soon. As the girls came out of the bath, Izuku excused himself, saying that he needed to relax for a bit. Making his armor took a lot out of him, and his emotions were all over the place. The Crimson Lolies looked a bit confused, but they were brought into a group chat with the older girls to discuss what just happened. Izuku sat down into the warm water of the bath and let out a deep sigh. I needed this, I really needed this, he thought as his aching muscles relaxed. Using transmutation was fairly draining in general, but to do it for 3 hours straight while trying to make sense of some of the most complicated tech he'd ever seen, Izuku was exhausted, and before he even realized it, he had already dozed off. POV change, Kazuma. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm glad you helped out back there, Aqua. Wiz-san is a nice person and all, but her business sense is abysmal, I said with a dead tone. The day that their useless goddess had better common sense than someone else was a day he never thought would come. I'll take that as a compliment, Haikenite. That stupid undead actually tried to buy an exploding boomerang. Who does that? As they dragged their way towards the house, a heavenly scent hit their noses. That smell. That smelly smell. The smelly smell that smells. Smelly. Aqua rasped out with a low whisper. Aquabaka stopped quoting SpongeBob and opened the door. I yelled with a drooling mouth. One nearly broken door later, and we were in the kitchen. The energetic welcomes that we got felt really great. Coming home from a hard day's work to a delicious meal and a bunch of beautiful women. Too bad none of them were mine. Not that I would ever try anything. I respected Izuku way too much to do that. Plus, I would rather live, thank you very much. As much as it pains me to say, I need to change out of these clothes before I can eat, I said before heading there. Aqua seems to agree, as she headed towards her own room. Weirdly enough, Darkness was missing too, but Luna seemed to be joining us for dinner tonight, so the busted blonde quota was still filled. When I arrived at the bath to change and relax for a bit, I noticed how Izuku was already there and fast asleep. Man, he must have had a rough day. Usually he's full of energy even this late, I thought as I laid down next to him. My own exhaustion hit me as the warm water helped to relax me. I closed my eyes for a moment. Third-person POV exactly 1 second later. A creaking door opened and 2 figures entered. Aqua, with a towel covering her whole front. Whole Darkness had to settle for only partial coverage due to her natural advantage. Why are they both here? Did I fall asleep? Is this the dream from the succubi? Kazuma thought in a slight panic as he looked around. To his surprise, Izuku was still there. But why? If this was a dream, he shouldn't. But I only ordered an older sister archetype. Does the dream change along with my subconscious? He began his inner crisis as he thought of the implications that this might have. He didn't have long to think it through, though, as the girls entered the bath, completely nude. Darkness was the first to notice, letting out a choked squeak of surprise and promptly collapsing on her knees with a meaty slap. This tipped Aqua in as well. Kakazumabaka, what are you doing? Here, she yelled, snapping Kazuma out of his thoughts and startling Izuku awake. Huh, wadash, he mumbled out loud before noticing the situation. Kazuma-kun-wa. Darkness-chan, I thought I said. And Aqua-chan, 2WH, his brain went into total panic mode as his heart practically leaped out of his chest. Didn't you two notice the clothes outside the bath chamber? He finished with a furious blush. The girls were looked fairly sheepish at this while Kazuma was still computing. Deciding that this situation was simply too crazy to be anything else but a dream, Kazuma calmed himself down a bit and went with the flow. Joe, if you two want to join us, I wouldn't mind, he said in the smoothest voice he could pull off. Izuku looked at him in shock and a bit of betrayal as his friend pulled a Mineta and dragged him along with it. What? Why would I want to join you, perverted Haikenite? Aqua screeched in complete shock at Kazuma's audacity. Darkness, however, looked a bit unsure. I wouldn't mind if it was with Izuku-kun, but with Kazuma-kun and Aqua-chan too, she said shyly. Kazuma looked a bit smug. They reacted just as he expected, further cementing the notion that it was a dream. Listen, you two, I have no idea what's gotten into Kazuma-kun, but you don't have to do anything unless you want to. I've been in for long enough, so I can leave, Izuku offered, slowly getting out of the water. However, the gods of fate seemed to choose now to mess with him as he slipped halfway into leaving the room. Luckily, something soft broke his fall before he hit the cold stone. Eek! Came the surprisingly girly scream from the usually composed darkness. Izuku had pulled a harem protagonist and landed right on her chest. He tried his best to apologize, but Kazuma just got up and headed towards Aqua. Well, Izuku and I seems busy. Are you sure you don't want to join us, Aqua-chan? I'll even wash your back as a thank you for earlier today, he said smoothly while Aqua took her turn to sputter in embarrassment. He walked closer and started to wrap his hands around her waist, slowly bringing her in for a full-body hug. Thankfully for whatever innocence Aqua had left, a scream was heard from outside the door, a high-pitched one, most likely from Megumin or Yin Yun. Izuku wasted no and dashed out of the bath at